Hey guys, tonight we're slipping into a place where time's tangled tighter than last year's Christmas lights. Picture this, you're climbing stairs that creak like arthritic knees, each step smudged with the fingerprints of 100 forgotten souls. The loft above smells like old books and attic regrets, you know, that blend of mothballs and existential dread. Let's be real, you probably won't survive whatever's spinning in those shadows. But hey, at least the ambience is killer. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. But only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Drop a comment with your location and local time. I'm morbidly curious how many night owls are watching from time zones they can't pronounce. Now dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. Your hand grazes the splintered banister, raw wood snagging your sleeve. 14 steps. Always 14. You count them every time, though you swear the number changes when you blink. At the top, the door groans open without a touch. Classic haunted real estate charm. Dust cascades like confetti at the world's saddest parade. Frayed tapestries flank you, their colors bleeding into muted grays. One shows a stag with too many antlers. Another, a ship sailing through a storm of snakes. Historians still argue whether medieval weavers slipped hallucinogens into their yarn. Those church-funded textile artisans partied harder than you'd think. You trace a threadbare patch. The wool whispers against your skin. Names hum in your ears. Mathilda, Eleazar, somebody's weird Uncle Klaus. But they dissolve before you can grasp them. A draft coils around your ankles. It's colder here, the kind of chill that nibbles bones. You spot an oak loom squatting in the center, half hidden under a sheet yellowed by centuries of nicotine-free indoor smoking. Nearby, a spinning wheel tilts like a drunk spectator. Fun fact, spider silk was once woven into fabric for royal gloves. That's right, 8-legged sweatsops. You brush cobwebs off a workbench, scissors crusted with something rusty, a thimble dented by teeth marks, and wait, is that a Latin prayer scribbled on the wall? Nope, just an aggressively misspelled grocery list. Thread, more thread, do not forked milk. Poetic. Moonlight slinks through cracked windows. It etches silver lines across your shoes, guides you toward the loom. Your pinky grazes the shuttle. It thrums low and steady, syncing with your pulse. For a heartbeat, you're convinced it's breathing. Then scratching, not the cute kitten wants breakfast kind. This is the something's dragging its knuckles through the wall's variety. You freeze. The air tastes metallic, like licking a nickel. A thread snaps somewhere. The tapestries billow, their edges curling like burnt paper. You pivot toward the door, it's gone. Just a smooth stretch of plaster, smiling innocently. Classic. The room tightens around you, walls, exhaling decades of trapped breath. A shadow detaches from the corner, too tall, too jointless. It doesn't move, but somehow inches closer. Your phone's dead. Obviously. The flashlight app's last act was highlighting a dusty corner where someone once drew a summoning circle in charcoal. Quirky tidbit: there's a 17th century German text claiming weaving patterns could trap minor demons. Historians call it superstition. The 3 poltergeists in my Arab call it a how-to guide. You're backing toward the loom, heel crunching a dried-up inkwell. The shuttle's vibrations sharpen, insistent now. Your hands move without consent, threading a strand of cobalt yarn. The second it touches the warp, the room inhales. Colors bloom deep indigo, swallowing the dark. The air hums with the scent of wet dye and something floral like funeral lilies. Threads pull taut. The shadow falters, fraying at the edges. You weave faster, even though your last craft project was that sad macaroni necklace in 3rd grade. A name hisses through the clatter of the loom: Isa. Viking era wool spinners were buried with their tools, grave goods for the afterlives, eternal DIY projects. The tapestry grows, a landscape of jagged mountains under a greenish moon. That mountain looks familiar. Hey, isn't that the view from your apartment window? The thread snaps. Silence floods back, thick and disorienting. The loom lies dormant. The shadow's gone, and the door miraculously reappears, dangling open like nothing happened. But woven into the fabric, glowing faintly, a single word: soon. Downstairs, the stair counts different this time, 17 steps. You don't look back. The loft door whispers shut behind you. Somewhere above, a spindle rolls off a table, click, click, click against the floorboards. Moonlight spills through warped glass, etching silver veins across oak beams, older than your great-grandmother's favorite conspiracy theories. Dust motes swirl in the glow, still agitated from your stair-climbing theatrics. The loom dominates the room, a hulking thing of blackened wood and iron teeth. Its shuttle lies cold against your palm until it isn't. A thrum pulses through the handle, steady as a heartbeat. If hearts ran on stolen time. You lean closer. The wood grain whispers of forgotten hands, calloused fingers that once guided silk from Cathay and flax from Alexandria. Fun fact: that's how Cleopatra's bedsheets got here. Armed caravans, bribed guards, and one particularly persuasive camel. The shuttle's tremor spreads up your arm, a rhythm older than mortgage payments. You have expected to demand an oil change and extended warranty. The moon shifts. Silver light licks a brass plate nailed to the loom's frame. Engraved letters swim into view. Property of Ramses, Ai's 3rd favorite wife. Okay, maybe not. But historians do agree Egyptian queens employed whole villages just to weave their burial linens, though records fail to mention if they tipped. Your thumb brushes a notch in the shuttle, a deliberate groove worn deep. Coincidence? Probably. But then a thread snaps taut 3 inches from your nose. No hand pulled it. The loom's heartbeat quickens, a staccato thud-thud-thud rattling your molars. You glance at the nearest beam. Someone carved Roman numerals there, XXVII, XIV, LX, either a date, a code, or a real bad attempt at Sudoku. A breeze ghosts through the room, carrying the scent of molten beeswax and something sharper. Gunpowder, pepper. Your eyes water. The shuttle bucks like a startled colt. Threads dance without wind their shadows, sketching hieroglyphs on the far wall. We're not saying it's cursed. The loom seems to hum. But maybe don't mention this part on your LinkedIn. Your knee bumps a hidden compartment beneath the treadles. Inside lies a spool of thread, so gold it hurts to look at. Midas might coughed this up after a bad sushi night. The second you touch it, the room tilts. Floorboards become dune sands. Heat blisters your cheeks. A voice rasps. Thutmose I's hairpiece required 18 pounds of this crap. Kingly vanity smells like burnt honey. Reality snaps back. The spool's gone dull. Your watch says only 7 seconds passed. The loom's pulse slows, a contented purr rippling through its skeleton. Historians still argue whether master weavers worked faster when grieving. You suddenly understand why. Every thread here thrums with someone else's hurry. Moonlight fades behind a cloud. The shuttle stills cold as a lawyer's handshake. Somewhere below, wind gnaws at the alley's cobblestones. Your breath fogs the air, though the room feels warmer than before. You count the beams to steady yourself. 12 overhead, 17 underfoot. None accounted for in the original blueprints, according to that guy at the Historical Society, who definitely drinks alone. The brass plate winks once more. For half a heartbeat, the engraving reads turn back. You blink. It's just flecks of tarnish. Probably. The loom exhales a note that doesn't exist in any scale, a sound felt in molars, not eardrums. Your phone's flashlight dies mid-scoff. Fair enough. Even batteries know when to quit. Shadows pool around your shoes, thick and clingy, like subway platform gum. One tendril curls toward the golden spool. You slam the compartment shut. The darkness hisses. The loom's heartbeat skips, a arrhythmia sharp enough to cut glass. When silence returns, you're clutching the shuttle like a lifeline. Its surface sweats resin-scented droplets. The taste of pomegranates floods your mouth. No reason, just the universe reminding you it's still weird. Outside, an owl screeches, or maybe a very disgruntled bat. Either way, the message is clear. This shuttle's older than taxes. Be polite. You rise on unsteady legs. The loom's pulse fades to a murmur, a lullaby for the undead, or just overclocked machinery. Hard to tell. Your shadow stretches toward the stairs, but the golden thread glows faintly through closed wood, like it's laughing, like it's waiting. The golden thread's glow fades, replaced by a single cobalt strand pulsing like a dying star. Dusk bleeds through cracks in the roof, violet and burnt orange pooling around your ankles. The loom's heartbeat syncs with yours now, in out, slower than a DMV line. That cursed shuttle lies motionless, playing dead like a toddler avoiding broccoli. You reach for the cobalt thread. It's colder than a politician's smile. 3 heartbeats pass before you notice. The room's shadows have stopped moving. Frozen mid-wriggle. Even the dust hangs suspended. Fun fact: Byzantine silk workshops hid their looms in basements, state secrets tighter than a hipster's jeans. The thread resists your pull, like it's rooted to the air itself. A creak shatters the stillness. The nearest tapestry ripples, depicting Pharaoh Hatshepsut's famous trading voyage. Someone's stitched a tiny UFO above her ships. You lean closer. The saucer winks. Okay, maybe don't mention that to the history podcast bros. The loom jerks. Your fingers slip. The cobalt thread whips free. It slices through the dusty stillness like a jazz riff. Shadows explode into motion. A mosaic of flickers, hunting cats, chariots, a distinctly modern-looking skateboard. The air tastes of static and saffron. Floorboards groan as you retreat. Your heel crunches something brittle, a dried lotus flower, crisp as papyrus. Legend claims Cleopatra stuffed her pillows with these. Historians still argue whether they were for scent, symbolism, or just really bad neck support. You pocket it. Souvenirs beat therapy. Moonlight pierces the western window, thin and blue as surgical steel. The cobalt thread thrumsav seems the only word is alive. Its glow deepens with each pulse. You swear it's breathing. An irregular rhythm, too quick, one slow, like Morse code for brace yourself. The shuttle rattles, not the whole loom, just that bone-white sliver of wood. It carves figure eights in the air, trailing cobalt like a drunk calligrapher. Your scalp prickles. This feels rehearsed, predatory, like a Venus flytrap doing jazz hands. A hot draft licks your neck, carrying voices. Not words, exactly. More like the memory of arguments. Angry spindles. A child's hiccup sobs. Weird but true. Medieval French weavers blamed tangles on wool imps and left honey cakes to appease them. The thread twitches toward the sound. So do you. Your thumb finds that groove in the shuttle again. Deeper now. A perfect fit. Coincidence is for people who have never held a possessed weaving tool. The loom's pulse drops to sub-bass levels, felt in your fillings, not your ears. Cobalt light fractures. Reflections bloom on every surface, distorted duplicates of your face. Younger, older, missing eyes. One winks. You grip the shuttle tighter, the real one, probably. The thread tugs upward. Insistent. The ceiling's frayed canopy splits, revealing not rafters, but stars. Orion glares down, bow drawn. The constellation shifts, an arm lowers. Points at you. Points through you. The thread vibrates, humming a note that cracks the nearest teacup. Shards dance in midair, suspended like Oppenheimer's worst thought. Your lungs burn. When did you stop breathing? The shuttle warms, not comforting warmth, more like holding a just-fired bullet. The cobalt thread spins itself into a knot midair. A true lover's knot, if lovers were feral and bad at boundaries. You cough. The taste of forged smoke and rotting roses floods your mouth. The The knot unravels, each loop etching words into your palm. SINAI 1300 BCE, the letters fade. Your skin remembers their weight. A wet snick echoes. The loom's reed blade snaps down, barely missing your wrist. 17 threads sever. They writhe like headless snakes. The scent of scorched linen sears your nostrils. OSHA would have a field day here. Moonlight catches the falling threads. For a heartbeat, they're not threads at all, ox tendons, bronze wires, fiber optic cables. Then just cotton again. The shuttle trembles, then stills. An ancient sigh drifts from the bobbin. You step back. Your shadow stays put, stitched to the floor by cobalt light. The air thins. Colors leach away until only blues remain. Prussian, azure, the impossible gradient of a twilight bruise. A bead of sweat rolls off your chin, hits the loom's frame. The sound echoes, a cathedral gong in miniature. The cobalt thread goes slack. Dead weight. You half expect it to disintegrate. Instead, it loops around your pinky, gentle as a cobweb. Footsteps clatter on the stairs below. Too heavy for rats. Too irregular for humans. The thread tugs toward the noise, insistent. You glance at the frozen shadows. They've twisted into new shapes. One resembles your first grade teacher. Mrs. Whitcomb never looked so segmented. The loom exhales. Dust cascades from its frame, solidifying into a tiny figurine mid-fall. A weaver, 6 inches tall. Her chisel strikes air where the shuttle hung. Silent, relentless. Her face blurs when you blink. Cobalt light fades. Dusk surrenders to proper night. You're alone again, unless you count the thing breathing behind the moth-eated curtain. You don't. The thread dissolves, ash without fire. The shuttle's groove deepens, or maybe that's your imagination. Your phone buzzes, a single notification, memory full. You check the gallery. 73 photos of floorboards, none taken by you. The timestamp claims they're from 1923. Charging ports clogged with blue lint. Of course, the loom sleeps now, wood creaking like an old dog's joints. You rub your palm. The ghost of those Sinaitic letters lingers. Tomorrow, museums. Tonight, the threadbare cot in the corner whispers. It smells of lanolin and bad decisions. Wind howls through the alley. For 3 seconds, it sounds like a woman's laugh. The cot's springs stab your kidneys in Morse code. SLEPNOT. You count warped ceiling planks until numerals lose meaning. The loom dreams in clicks and tension. Always tension. Dawns a theory here, a rumor told by shivering candles. You close your eyes. The cobalt thread's rhythm follows you into the dark too quick, one slow. A lullaby for the willingly cursed. The darkness thickens where lantern light fails. A tar-like spread swallowing floorboards whole. Your candle gutters, its flame reduced to a barley seed's worth of amber. Shadows jitter at the edges. Not the polite, stay in your lane kind. These sway hips first, like cabaret dancers mid-chorus. You blink. They freeze, just ordinary stains on ancient wood. Sure, A moth plunges into the candle, brief flare, then smoke stinging your eyes. When they clear, the shadows have partners. Slim figures pirouette near the loom. Their feet smoke, their stances courtly, 17th century, if the powdered wigs are accurate. Real talk. Versailles band Shadow plays in 1683, something about mocking nobility's bad wigs. One figure bows. You nod back. Mistake. They surge forward, coal-black fingers brushing your sleeve. Cold seeps through fabric. Not ice cold. Grave cold. The kind that puckers skin. Your breath mists. The candle dies. Shadows giggle, a sound like rats in a cheese shop wall. Moonlight bleeds through a high window. The dancers scatter except one. A child-shaped smudge inches closer. It offers a shadow daisy. You kneel. Bad idea. The daisy bites. Your palm oozes starlight, not blood. The cut smells of lavender and iron. Lanterns flicker awake down in the alley, weak yellow smears. The shadows hiss. They hate those. You're guessing Edison bulbs, maybe 1920s, vintage. Fun fact, Edo period watchmen carried moth-wing lanterns. The scales diffused light without casting detectable shadows. Sneaky. The child shadow shudders, then disintegrates into ash that isn't there. Floorboards creak behind you, slow, deliberate. Someone's trying for sneaky in clogs. You spin. Nothing. An embroidery hoop rolls into view, stitching itself mid-tumble. It's a duck, a very judgmental duck. Its bead eye glares. The thread. Your stolen starlight. A draft slithers up your spine. The dancers reassemble closer now. Their wigs drip curls of darkness. One mimes pouring tea. Another fans itself with a non-existent lace fan. Historians still debate whether Enlightenment-era shadow plays influenced early spy codes. You're voting yes. The duck embroidery hisses. It's unraveling, threads fleeing into cracks. The shadows lunge. Too late. A single feather remains. You pocket it. Future use problem. Cold numbs your ankles. Shadows pool there, climbing like ink in reverse. Their touch whispers names. Elizabeth, Marco, Shin. You shake a leg. They cling. Tug. The darkest one leads toward the loom. Moonlight strikes the shuttle, now glowing faintly green. The shadows recoil. Their wigs catch fire. No smoke. No heat. Just vanishing wisps of what might have been faces. The leader snarls. You catch a glimpse of teeth, needle-sharp and endless. Floor joists groan. The loom rattles a warning. A tapestry billows, scenes shifting from garden parties to battlefield chaos. The shuttle jerks. Threads weave themselves into a crude net. It hangs midair quivering. Shadows freeze. Your starlight cut pulses. 3 drops hit the floor. Each sizzles burning star-shaped holes. The shadows scream silently. They retreat to corners, writhing like salted slugs. The leader bows again, mocking, then melts into a stain resembling your third-grade portrait. Uncalled for. Dawn remains a conspiracy theory. The lanterns below gutter out. New shadows emerge, long-fingered, hooded. These don't the unfinished tapestry. Your feet move without clearance from HQ. The hooded shadows dissolve as you approach. Their final gesture, a universal salute involving one extended middle finger. Ah, solidarity. The tapestry's gap yawns wider, edges fraying into smoke. Moonlight reveals new stitches. Your face, 10 times. All variations look sleep-deprived. A cold spot forms behind your left ear. That's new. You scratch it. Fingers come away glittering, pixie dust, or craft store herpes. The loom creaks. Its rhythms changed, 2 quick knocks, 1 slide. Morse for run. You don't. Can't. Shadows congeal into ropes, cinching your ankles. The tapestry's version of you smirks. It mouths words. You lean closer. Cotton threads snap, 18 in unison. The sound splits your molars. Shadows scatter like roaches. The tapestry goes blank. Your ears pop. Pressure shifts. Air now pudding thick. A single word echoes. Soon. The candle rekindles, flame blue as a gas stove's kiss. Shadows resume their wallflower act. You check your palm. The star-cut's sealed. A scar glows faintly. Bonus freckle. Floorboards shift. Something scrapes beneath them, slow, rhythmic, digging, or applauding. You kick the spot. Silence. The loom exhales a threadbare sigh. Its shuttle droops, green glow fading. Your phone vibrates. Another phantom notification, glitched profile pic of the judgmental duck. Caption, nice knees. You're deleting this app tomorrow. Wind whistles through cracks. Shadows twitch, but stay put. For now, the cot creaks its usual complaint as you slump onto it. Springs jab your spine in a new pattern. SDAYAWAK, dawn remains a lying tattletale. You count dust motes instead of sheep. They form constellations. One winks, you flip it off. Balance. Somewhere, scissors snip. The sound's wrong like cuts through flesh, not thread. Shadows hold their breath. You hold yours. The loom dreams in minor key. When the floor finally swallows the last blue light, you realize the cold spots migrated. Now nestled behind your left lung, it hums, familiar rhythm. 2 quick, 1 slow. Sleep ambushes you. Dreams feature waltzing scissors and a duck in a powdered wig. It's teaching the shadows Charleston steps. They're horrible at it. You clap anyway. The 12th chime hits like a shovel to dry earth, vibrations crawling up your soles. Floorboards bug, threads snap taut, sudden harp strings singing with stolen echoes. Historical fact: medieval bell founders often added silver to molten bronze for a purer toll. Your eardrums vote for tin. Through the loom's warp flashes of other midnights, a monk in ink-stained robes yawning as he inks psalms. A Victorian seamstress pricking her thumb, blood blooming on christening lace. Debate alert. Academics still bicker if blood-stitched fabrics ever warded off the evil eye. The lace looks pretty cursed to you. Something clinks underfoot, a bell fragment. Tudor rose engraved, green with age. You pocket it. The Loft disapproves, All threads recoil for 3 heartbeats. Cold spot behind your lung thrums in time with distant hoofbeats. Random trivia. Night watchmen's bells contained wolf teeth in Norse regions to scare off troll wind. Didn't work. Obviously, threads show a new scene, a stonemason carving 13th century graffiti. It's a butt. Classic. His laughter seeps through the weave, musty, warm, gone too fast. The tower bell groans. Your fillings ache. Shadows condense into ropes again, targeting your newly acquired metal. You duck. They crash into the loom. It retaliates, spitting out a tangled mass smelling of burnt toast and regret. Side note, the Great Fire of London started at midnight. Coincidence? This loft says nope. A thread lashes your wrist. Not painful, a librarian's shush. The vision's clear now. A leaner of Aquitaine mid-sneeze, crown askew. History's glamour poof. The bell tolls 13. Wait, no, just echoes lying. Moonlight glints off the shuttle. It's chanting. In Latin, Pig Latin, Ali Aliacus Fei. Hard to tell. Your breath fogs the air, words form without consent. Unravel, unravel, unravel. Floorboards creak the forbidden creak, the one that means abandon hope. The loom's heartbeat stutters. Threads go slack. For 5 seconds, the universe forgets its own plotline. You forget to blink. Cold spot migrates to your left kidney. It hums the dizery. Classy. The bell fragment burns a frozen brand. Shadows inch closer. Sniffing. One sneezes soot. Gross. A single thread sticks to your sleeve, translucent, quivering. Through it, a Zeppelin mechanic chewing licorice, waving. 1936. He mouths, "Don't jump." Too late, you've already leapt into 7 new anxieties. The cot's still warm. The duck feather in your pocket vibrates, tech support for haunted textiles. You sigh. The loft sighs louder. Passive-aggressive architecture is the worst. 12 chimes linger in your molars. Each tastes different wine dregs, gunpowder, spearmint. The 12th, pure panic. Fitting, threads coil around your ankles, gentle this time. Tourniquets for the soul. Dawn's a no-show again. The loom resumes stitching, a half-finished bridge to nowhere. You count gaps in the pattern. 17, 18, 19 fractures humming a lullaby, even shadows avoid. Somewhere, that bell cracks, a sound like every dropped dish in history. The threads weep tarnished silver. You catch a drop. It etches your palm with coordinates. 51, 5074 degrees N, 0. 1278 degrees W cheeky. Air thickens, peat bog meets subway exhaust. The vision's sudden, a scribe in 880 AD Baghdad, ink freezing midword. His frown could curdle cosmos. The shuttle pirouettes, slinks into a corner. Your knees protest as you stand. Shadows part. A new tapestry panel hangs askew. It's you reading this sentence. 5 minutes from now. The stitching's flawless. The expression, buyer's remorse. Cold spot settles behind your eyes. Fine, you've had worse tenants. The bell tower wheezes, a final, wet cough. Threads relax. The loft pretends nothing happened. Gaslighting with extra cobwebs. Dust motes dance to silent big band music. One brassy particle solos gets lost. You fake applause. The shadows join in. Sarcasm transcends dimensions. Somewhere beneath floorboards, scissors sharpen themselves. The duck feather glows Morse code. Tap back. You knock thrice. The loom answers with 4. University, humor never dies. Threads droop, giving up the ghost, or faking it. Hard to tell. Your breath hitches. The cold spot purrs. Equilibrium overrated anyway. You sip air like lukewarm chai. Outside, nothing. Inside, less. The candle's back, flame greasy and over it. Shadows yawn. One offers a handkerchief woven from static. You decline. It shrugs, dissolves into the I told you so vibe. Time thickens, honey left in winter. The tower bell's silence grows fangs. You count heartbeats. They count back. Someone's bad at math. Ifrit's breath, even numbers aren't safe. The last thread snaps. Dawn remains a fairy tale. You pick up the shuttle. It's warm, familiar, heavy with every hand that's held it. One breath, the loft inhales. You weave. The cobalt thread pulses once, a heartbeat beneath your palm. Laughter spills out, high and clear, a child's giggle trapped mid-echo. You tug the teal skein. It resists, silky defiance. Fun fact, Han Dynasty silk roots stretched over 4,000 miles. Your current weaving project, maybe less impressive. The memory unspools anyway, a girl's hands staining indigo vats, 9th century Baghdad. Her fingers pruned from dye. She hums a tune you swear you've heard in elevators. Historians still argue if Ibn Khaldun's lost sister pioneered tie-dye techniques. The vinegar tang of fermenting snails hits your sinuses, purple extraction at its most pungent. Your wrist tingles where the thread coils. The vision sharpens, mud brick walls, a loom strung with palm fibers. The girl, maybe 10, glances over her shoulder. Her wink bookshelves collapsing. You cough up dust that isn't there. Shadows perk up. One licks the teal silk, leaves a saliva streak glowing faintly. Gross. The loft creaks disapproval. A spindle rolls off a shelf, thumps your toe. Karma's a knitting needle. Threads riffle like cards. New scene, Versailles, 1687. A boy in brocade sneaks scissors to a tapestry, snips a nobleman's nose. His snicker echoes the Baghdadi girls. Coincidence. The Louvre has invoices for 3 vandalized Gobelins pieces. Make that 4. Something tugs your earlobe, the skein again. It's singing now. Nursery rhyme. Gregorian chant. Smells like burnt sugar. Either way, your teeth ache. The girl's memory tightens. Sun-heated clay between toes. Lamb stew bubbling. A mother's voice. Donia. The warp mirrors the weft balance or burn. Floorboards groan, Persian rugs bicker in Farsi overhead. You pocket a loose pearl bead. It shivers, remembers being oyster spit. The teal thread hisses. Donia's hands blur dye bleeding into skin. Her palms map constellations. Yours itch in sympathy. A high-C note shatters the vision. The skein lies limp. Your arms numb. Shadows edge closer, polite vultures. One coughs up a thimble. You decline. It huffs, dissolves into a sulk. Moonlight shifts. The loom projects new credits. Donia's groan, weaving Baghdad's fall into tapestries. Smoke curls through threads. Scholars call this the Silk Road's dark stitch. Your tongue tastes of ash and cardamom. The child's laughter loops again, closer. A teal strand knots itself around your thumb. Pulse points sync. 2 heartbeats, where's the second? Below, beside. The cold spot migrates north, colonizes your collarbone. Dust motes perform a ballet choreographed by sneezes. One overachiever pirouettes into your eye. The loom clucks, textile tusk. You blink away grit. Donia's ghosting your peripheral vision, spinning flax into fugues. Threads fray. 14th century Venice leaks through. Dye shops dumped vermilion waste in canals, hence the pink gondolas. Your nostrils flare. The teal skein sags, exhausted storyteller. Shadows toss copper coins at it. Cheap tips, floorboards buck. Donia's voice whispers through splinters. They unraveled my atlas of blues. Your pocket warms, the pearl beads glowing. Maps scroll across its surface, Baghdad to Nanjing in nacreous roads. A needle pricks your calf. Karma's back with reinforcements. The child's laughter fades, choked by centuries. The teal thread unravels to lint. Somewhere, a toddler in Surakarta learns batik. Circle begins anew. Moonlit dust settles. The loom offers a fresh shuttle, rice paper wrapped around steel. You press a palm to warped wood. Grain patterns shift, complaint or confession. The cold spot holds its breath. Laughter echoes once more fainter, wiser, yours. You check. Nope, just shadows mimicking. The pearl bead stops glowing. Its map fades, roads dissolving into sea salt, and maybe shuttles rest. Looms dream. You exhale 9 layers of someone else's history. The teal skein's remnant glows once, then winks out. A sneeze builds in your sinuses, lingers, declines to disrupt the silence. Threads hum lullabies in dead tongues. Your left pinky remembers being a lion silk, Mercer's least favorite child. The loft yawns, splinters stretching like cats. Equilibrium's an illusion. But hey, the view from here, woven in starlight and stolen breaths. The gap stares back, lopsided grin stitched with malice. Stars drip from its edges, melted silver pooling on warped floorboards. That fractured moon. It winks at you, a conspirator's smirk. The loom groans bass notes. Velvet rot thickens the air. You lean closer. The void pulses, vacuum tugging at eyelids. 16th century weavers called these gods' yawns, places where divine attention lapsed. Historians still argue whether Emperor Rudolph II's padded cell walls featured intentional holes to vent madness. Your pinky twitches. Donia's ghost thread itches beneath the skin, buried but restless. A moth kamikazes into the gap. It emerges skeletonized, wings now lace doilies. The moon's crack widens. From its jagged rim spills pickled herring. No patched memories. Ship rigging. A Krakow tavern. Vodka distilled from beets. The loom shudders its petals, stamping Morse code. Dot dash dash. D for desperation. Your knee bumps the frame. 4 splinters volunteer as tribute. 1 jabs a vein. Your blood beads rubies on neglected oak. The tapestry drinks it. The gap belches. Suddenly, you're nose to void with a half-stitched deity. Babylonian, Sumerian. Its 7 eyes blink out of sync. A Chinese letter fact surfaces. Ishtar Gate bricks were glazed cobalt to mimic lapis lazuli skies. This god's pupils hold the same shade. The deity plucks a star from the void. Threads scream as it reattaches the fragment, galactic dialysis. Your molars vibrate. Someone's humming abbas dancing queen off-key. Floorboards creak the chorus. A misplaced joke. Should used fabric glue. The deity's central eye swivels towards you. Judgment radiates like microwaved shame. The loom coughs. A spindle clatters to your feet. Peace offering. You thread it, no choice now. The shuttle whispers. Louis XIV's wig contained enough yarn to strangle a musketeer. Quirky. True. Also nauseating. The first stitch pulls your ribs forward, marionette string cruel in its precision. The moon's crack seals momentarily. Reward. A vision. Versailles gardens, topiary shaped like fleeing weavers. Their shears glint guillotine sharp. Historians still argue if Marie Antoinette's last words were "let them eat silk." Darkness regurgitates a half-swallowed city. Cairo, Alexandria. Minarets stitch themselves into the gap only to unravel at the roofline. The deity huffs. Its breath smells of mummies' linen, wrappings, and regret. Your needle slips. Egypt collapses into Memphis, Tennessee, not Egypt. Graceland's gates materialize, tarnished threads, forming Elvis's quiff. The deity facepalms. 3 eyes peek through its fingers, disappointed glow. Another stitch. The gap retaliates. Now it's spewing 18th century love letters, all addressed to a Madame Loom. Ink bleeds through centuries. A quill scratches postscripts in your ear. Weave me a waistcoat of comet tails. Exhaustion sets in. Your stitches list starboard. The deity sighs its breath, snuffing 2 nearby stars. Shadows clap sarcastically. One throws a rotten pomegranate. It bounces off the loom, splattering Assyrian glyphs across the wall. Dawn's first lie seeps through shutters. The tapestry flinches, swallowing light like a shamefaced addict. Your last stitch seals the moon's crack. Mostly. A sliver remains, whispering in high Gothic. The loom purrs, false victory thrum. Blood dries sticky on the frame. The Egyptian deity waves farewell, falling apart like a yarn-bombed statue. Its central eye lingers, lodges in your chest. Vision blurs. Bronze Age cataracts. A single teardrop plinks onto the tapestry. Saltwater spreads, consuming Memphis, Versailles, the herring stench. The gap giggles, rebirth as brine. Somewhere below, alley cats compose odes to spilled milk. The shuttle cools in your palm. You taste loom oil and shared centuries. Starlight flickers, weak applause. Shadows drag themselves home. Only the unfinished edge remains, crooked smile stitched with tomorrow's regrets. Floorboards exhale woodless and ennui. Your spine remembers being oak. The moon's slivered voice insists, come back when you've learned the lullaby of scissors. Morning, a negotiable concept here. The last intact star dims, 13 threads short of a constellation. You pocket the deity's eyeball. It winks. Mutual understanding achieved. The deity's eyeball warms in your pocket, copper-tinged sweat pools under your collarbone. Wind licks your nape dry and scorched, the kind that bakes Nile clay into bricks. Grit coats your molars. A golden thread thrums between your fingers, then dies mid-vibration. Desert air thickens with phantom libations. You smell myrrh and something earthier. Mainstream fact time. Ancient Egyptian embalmers used ostrich feathers to brush sand from corpses' eyes. That earthy note, probably the afterparty. The thread jerks, live wire resurrected. It drags your hand toward crumbling plaster. Hieroglyphs swim into focus. A ibis, a crook, Cleopatra's hooked nose. Historians still argue if her tomb was vaporized by Roman PR campaigns. The wall cracks, sand spills like an hourglass with performance anxiety. Sudden vertigo. The floors now dune slopes. A caravan materializes, camels rolling their eyes at your stupor. Their bells clank Ottoman-era flatware. Quirky tidbit. A 19th century archaeologist found a sarcophagus full of cinnamon, smelled like a Yankee candle meltdown. The golden thread, Kodak's heat now. It's fused to your palm, branding a menat necklace pattern. Sunlight bleaches the scene. A child's clay Shabti doll offers you water. You decline. It shrugs, crumbles into a Scrabble pile of demotic script. Shadows lengthen into obelisks. The thread tugs you toward a tent, its fabric hissing with vipers. Inside, a loom rattles under papyrus scrolls. Pattern visible. The Siege of Actium, rendered in squid ink and pomegranate dye. Hot wind moans through guy ropes. The thread snaps taut. Your nose to linen with a half-woven pharaoh. His cartouche reads Nectanebo, last native ruler before Persia went BRRR. His linen shroud peels back, revealing a crossword puzzle. 7 down, god of unfulfilled gym memberships. You snort. The thread sizzles punishment for irreverence. The tent collapses into parchment ash. Night falls with a leaden thud. Stars here look copied from Babylonian star charts, sloppy plagiarism. The thread loops itself into a noose, not ominous at all. Something crunches underfoot. You lift your soul, a Ushabti figurine with your face. Its inscription, cleaner of cosmic lint, humbling. The thread yanks you into a wadi where sandstone hums. A well yawns open. Its walls show Roman frescoes, legionnaires playing dice with scarabs. The golden thread coils into a rope ladder. Down you go. Darkness gums your skin. The well's base glows. An alabaster jar pulses nearby. You remember Howard Carter's curse pheromones. Debate fodder. Did Nefertiti's perfume cause more drama than her actual reign? The jar shatters. Out pours black resin and a skein of crimson thread. It braids itself with your gold strand, Twizzler friendship bracelet from hell. Dawn's a liar here too. The sky pales while the sun stays hidden, celestial stay, fright. Your threads now form a halter top, even a Minoan snake goddess would veto. Sand infiltrates your socks. The threads unravel dire headache. A final yank pulls you face first into a mural. Alexander the Great side-eyeing a threadbare map of India. Silence. Heat dissipates. Your pockets lighter, the deity's eyeball gone. Only a golden thread remnant remains, crisped at both ends. Absentee report card. Tried. Failed. Sand in everything. The loft's floorboards reappear, loyal traitors. Your knees leave dents in the wood. That desert wind. Now just a alley cat's sneeze dust. You inspect the leftover thread. Under moonlight, it spells Khepri in Coptic script, the scarab god of bad mulligans. Somewhere below, a dropped tambourine echoes. The loom pretends to sleep. Stale water from a mason jar tastes like regret and limestone. The wall hieroglyphs have faded to doodles. A stick figure, weaver fleeing a very angry spindle. Floor grit grinds like unspoken truths. You pocket the dead thread. It's lighter than a pharaoh's conscience. Shutters bang, false alarm. No sand, no silk, no salvation. Just a sparrow's shadow stitching the night. The golden strand stays silent. Mutual neglect established. Dawn's sneaking in through a knothole. The thread disintegrates, gone, before you can name the loss. You brush residual gold from your palms. It stains like poor choices. Cold drafts coil around your ankles, spiteful little serpents. The loft's single lantern gutters. Its flame licks the ceiling, but casts no warmth. Air thickens with the musk of aged flax and burnt honey. Your breath hitches. Shadows congeal near the far wall. They sketch a hunched silhouette, spindle dangling from bone-thin fingers. Your pulse thrums in your temples. Mainstream fact. Egyptian weavers used horizontal looms heavy enough to anchor a felucca. This one's grip defies gravity entirely. The figure pivots. No face, just hollows where eyes should siphon light. Its spindle whirls. Thread spools from nothingness gray as forgotten temples. You step back. Floorboards croak like abused lapdogs. It freezes. Head cocked, listening. Historians still argue whether Coptic tapestries hid coded rebellion texts in their borders. The ghost's work. Just frayed knots and resentment. A draft gusts. The shape unravels, threads dispersing like cigarette smoke in a dive bar. Your left palm prickles. The Menat brand glows faintly, then fades. Silence. until a clatter. The dropped spindle rolls toward your foot. You crouch. Quirky tidbit. Roman laws once banned women from spinning wool at night, said it cursed the thread. You lift the tool. Its whorls etched with ibises mid-sneeze. The loft exhales. Dust motes swirl into a transient path, leading to the loom. You follow. The warp threads hum a Giza quarry chant. Weft strands lie dormant, coffin ready. Your thumb brushes the heddle rod. The ghost materializes inches away, cold radiating like open sarcophagus breath. No mouth, but a voice rasps. 7 unknotted, 7 unpaid. You blink. It's gone again. The spindle warms in your grip, feverish. Moonlight slants through a cracked shutter. It illuminates the loom's cloth beam and a half-finished scene. Falcons tearing apart a sun disk. Cheery. Wind howls through the alley below. The ghost reappears at the window, backlit by a street lamp's jaundiced glow. Spindle raised like a scepter. Threads writhe around its form, snake pit chic. You half expect a monologue. It offers none. Just unravels further strands cascading to the floor. They pool, twist, form Coptic letters. Netchery, they spell. Divine residue. Your menat scar twinges. A floorboard creaks. You turn. The threads retreat embarrassed. Only the spindle remains, cool against your palm. Its heft feels familiar. Too familiar. Like shaking hands with an older version of yourself. Dawn's a no-show tonight. The loft clings to darkness, stingy with its secrets. You pocket the spindle. It leaves a lintroll fuzz of shadows in your jacket. The lantern dies mid-sputter. Walls press closer. Somewhere below, a shopkeeper hoses down the alley water, sluicing over cobblestones. The sound morphs into whispers. Unknotted, unpaid, you smirk. Send an invoice. The ghost doesn't laugh, but the loom shudders, a single thread snapping taut. It points to the eastern wall. You approach, squinting. Faded graffiti hides there, a child's stick figure weaver fleeing a squid-shaped blob. Art critique aside, the squid's drawn with alarming verve. Your spindle hand twitches. The wall peels back papyrus thin, revealing a crawl space. Dank air escapes, along with the reek of rancid linseed oil. You hesitate. The spindle vibrates urgent. From the darkness below, a low thrum answers. The ghost's final thread phrase then stills. Floorboards reseal with a wet click. Spindle gone cold. Daylight scratches at the shutters, third-rate understudy for the sun. You kneel, ear pressed to wood. Distant echoes rise, chisels on stone, a loom's rhythmic clack, a woman's laughter snuffed mid-breath. The alley cat yowls. You flinch. When you look back, the wall's just a wall. Stick figure squid unchanged. Your pocket sags, spindle evaporated. Only a gray thread remains, tied in a noose around your pinky. You sigh. The loft offers 0 refunds. Constellations bleed through the roof's splintered seams, liquid starlight pooling in the loom's warp threads. You dip your fingers into the glow. It's colder than expected, like scooping December river water. under a full moon. The Menat brand on your palm flares, cobalt. Historians still argue whether Ptolemaic weavers mapped actual star patterns or just Pharaoh-approved propaganda. You weave Sagittarius's bowstring anyway. The thread ignites, burning without heat. Overhead, Cassiopeia winks through moldering rafters. Quirky tidbit: medieval Persians called her throne the loaf-bearer, thought her stars resembled a baker's rack. You snort. The loom responds with an indignant clack. 3 threads snap. Constructive criticism only, you mutter. Orion's belt buckles itself into the cloth, its nebula smudging like wet ink. Mainstream fact: Babylonian astronomers logged lunar eclipses on linen scrolls until a misguided scribe used sheep fat for ink. A comet streaks through the eastern window. Its tail tangles in your hair strands of ice and static. You twist it into the weft. The loom purrs. The ghostly cold from earlier retreats, repelled by stellar fire. Coldplay's yellow hums from nowhere. You freeze. The stars dim ashamed. The music fades. Okay, cosmic jukebox, stick to ambience, you say. Polaris flickers apologetic and brightens again. Your pinky's noose thread tugs. A loose warp fiber sways, mimicking the motion. You secure it with Cygnus's wingtip. The pattern clarifies. A midnight hunt, hounds chasing stag-shaped shadows. A keening rises from the alley below. The loom answers, shuttle darting like a metronome possessed. You glimpse scars on your wrists, new ones, or had they always been there? Venus pierces a cloudbank. Her light stabs the tapestry. The stag freezes mid-leap. Historian bait, Cleopatra. Its whispered, stitched Isises star into Mark Antony's battle standards. The loom hisses. You add Aphrodite's jeweled girdle as a peace offering. Fabric puckers. You lean closer. Microscopic faces peer back. Constellation farmers tending starfields with copper sickles. One waves. You wave back and instantly regret it. The thread sags, scene dissolving into static. Boundaries, you remind the loom. It sulks, tension slackening. The roof cracks widen. Lyra's harp strings drizzle notes into your left ear, half a Mozart concerto. A shooting star zips past your collarbone. You lunge, knocking over the mothball-scented oil lamp. Flame licks a cobweb, which flashes into nebulae before disintegrating. The chill returns stronger now. Your breath frosts the air. The Menat brand dims, its glow retreating toward your wrist. The ghost spindle's absence weighs heavier, pocket sagging with phantom gravity. Fine, let's barter. You pluck Rigel from Orion's foot, its blue-white heat stinging your fingertips. The cold relents slightly. You weave the star into Cassiopeia's throne. Threads tighten too abruptly. A warp fiber splits. Blood wells from your thumb. The loom drinks it hungry. Sagittarius's arrowhead blooms crimson. Wiping your hand, you spot a glint in the tapestry's reverse side. Flip it, and there's earth. Not the globe specific, your apartment building. Yesterday's takeout container still steaming on the counter. starlight gutters. The vision shreds. The loom coughs up shredded silk, embarrassed. Your spine prickles. That scent again, burnt honey, thick enough to coat your tongue. A floorboard groans. You tense, but it's just the alley cat. It leaps onto the loom, constellations reflecting in its oil-slick eyes. It bats at Ursa Major and misses catastrophically. The tapestry ripples, bear cubs tumbling into Andromeda's lap. The cat hisses. So does the loom. You mediate with a scrap of dried fish from your coat. Midnight creeps closer, or is it retreating? No clocks here, just the ache in your knees and the warped silence of interstellar thread. The last star, Vega, slips through your grasp twice. On the third try, it bites. Your palm bleeds again. The blood evaporates, rising as a microcosmic galaxy. You knot the final strand. Cassiopeia's throne blazes, a chandelier of frozen flame. The cat claws your sleeve, suddenly urgent. Below, the alley's cobblestones emit a low, tectonic moan. Your Menat brand extinguishes. Total darkness, save the tapestry's cold radiance. Threads hum a lullaby in Mycenaean Greek, or maybe that's sleep deprivation talking. The cat flees. The loom falls silent. Dawn remains a no-show. From the tapestry's depths, something stirs, a silhouette too angular for myth. You lean in. It mimics you. When you blink, it doesn't. The key falls without sound, landing on your boot like a spider testing prey. Its rust matches the loft's oxidized hinges. 3 jagged teeth grin up, familiar as your own molars after that ill-advised caramel incident last Tuesday. You kneel, floorboards groaning complaints copied from 14th century merchant ships. Mainstream fact: medieval Silk Road traders hid contraband in hollowed-out loom shuttles. This key feels heavier, hungrier. The tapestry hisses as you pocket it. Moonlight strokes the lock. You swear the keyhole's shape changed since yesterday. Now, mirroring the Menat brand seared into your palm. Historians still argue whether Coptic weavers encoded star maps into marketplace ledgers. The iron bites your thumb. Subtle, you mutter. The door exhales cinnamon and damp. Quirky tidbit: 18th century, wig makers measured clients' skulls using Paris inches, 3 of which equaled 1 royal headache. The lock surrenders with a click too crisp for its corrosion. Inside, wait. Not a room. A corridor of fabric. Bolt holes from Genoese silk markets stretch endlessly, moths fluttering like shredded receipts. Your key levitates, tugging you toward a stain-shadowed alcove. A ledger floats open. Its pages flex like lazy cats. Entries glow, Venetian ducats morphing into Phoenician shekels mid-sentence. You squint between transactions, faces. Mesopotamian merchants winking beside eBay seller profiles. A threadbare joke forms, then dies. The key vibrates, insistent. You press it to the ledger. Lines unravel, rewriting themselves into a cargo manifest. 1 gross. Saffron, 200. Secrecy. The ink bleeds, revealing a sublayer, childish doodles of scarab beetles driving steam trains. Air shifts, smoke, and bergamot. A shadow leans over your shoulder. Not the Loom ghost, someone smoother. Bronze fingers point to a smudged entry. Mislabeled, they purr. That's not cinnamon. That's Tyrian purple stolen from a bishop's socks. You turn, nothing but cobwebs miming applause. The key's teeth have multiplied, now a tiny comb grooming the ledger's frayed edges. Your pocket buzzes. Phone. No. The stolen thimble from section 13 glows. Morse coding insults against your femur. A tapestry rips itself. Through the slit, Alexandria's harbor at dawn. Crates labeled Loom repair parts spill open. Sand trickles out, except it's not sand. Sugar. Salt. You dab a grain. It dissolves, tasting of printer toner and regret. The key jerks sideways. You follow into a stockroom frozen mid-raid. Amphory hover mid-crash, olive oil cascading in suspended droplets. One jar holds a scroll, mainstream bait. Roman customs officers listed gray thread as military contraband in 79 CE. Your reflection warps in an oil puddle. Younger face, same under-eye baggage. A voice whispers. Interest compounds in silence. The thimble burns hotter. You toss it into the puddle. Ripples erase your doppelganger. The key cools exhausted. You exit as hinges yawn behind you. The loft door reseals, but now it's oak where once was pine. Carved into the grain, a list of numbers. Fibonacci sequence. Nope. Pi. Closer. Area codes for cities that don't exist. Dawn remains AWOL. The key nestles into your fist, content as a broken watch. Its teeth prick your lifeline, etching tiny constellations only accountants could love. From the alley, 3 rapid knocks, wood on stone. The ledger's pages flutter. You pocket the key, but its shadow stays behind, dancing with the moths in perfect waltz time. The knock's echo lingers, too crisp for alley acoustics. Walls sweat indigo. Drips hit the floor, each drop a tiny big bang, birthing coastlines. Vanished islands surge across plaster, palm-fringed atolls elbowing aside cobwebs. You blink cartography 2-0 with better humidity. Your boot squelches. The ledger's pages bleed upward, ink defying gravity like caffeinated squid. Mainstream fact. Renaissance mapmakers drew sea monsters where their paymasters feared rivals. The current here be dragon's zone. A palm-sized void labeled Pickman's credit union. Classy. A thread snakes around your ankle, thick as ship's rope, blue as a screenlit midnight. It tugs. You follow past mangrove tapestries, roots whispering market prices for nutmeg and regret. Quirky tidbit. Victorian tea smugglers trained octopuses to untie rival ships' cargo knots. The thread tenses, impatient teacher yanking a daydreamer. The farthest wall buckles. Plaster flakes become sandstone. Heat slaps your face, carrying the lemon zest stench of camel caravans. Before you, a well. Not wood or stone. Dozens of ink jars fused together their glazes weathered into scales. You peer in. No water. Scrolls float like lazy jellyfish. One unfurls, a recipe for moon-resistant ink using crushed scarabs and widow's tears. Another details silk tariffs under Emperor Ai of Han. Historians still argue whether his alleged death by silk overdose was assassination by tax protesters. The thread yanks harder. You grab the well's edge, fingertips recognizing the grooves. Phoenician numerals, Carthaginian curses, a sticky patch that might once held chewing gum. The cord drags you over the rim. Air thickens into liquid. You're swimming through India's lost port of Muziris. Sunken spice sacks burst against coral cardamom volcanoes, erupting in slow motion. A stone pillar floats past, engraved with today's date. Your throat burns. Light shifts. Dry again. The thread's gone. You're kneeling in an alley, but not yours. Cobblestones glitter with embedded mosaics. Byzantium meets Vegas. Neon-hued tesserae spell out DEMETRIOS, DELIGHTS, fresh fish, and FORTUNES. A stall holder eyes you, torn between selling mackerel and reading your palm. His scales trays hold not weights, cities. Rome on the left, Tenochtitlan on the right. The needle tilts toward a squid, nibbling Rome's Colosseum. Unstable market, he shrugs. Your shadow stretches wrong, elongating toward a crumbling archway. Through it, the loom. Different. Warp threads are snakes. Weft threads are chains. The shuttle, a silver knife. Air thrums with the sound of a necktie choking its wearer. Backpedaling, you crash into a spice cart. Cinnamon sticks rain down, forming a sloppy arrow pointing east. Not helpful, you tell them. They regather into a middle finger. Fair, the archway inhales, sucking stalls, mosaics, and indigo puddles into its maw. You brace behind Demetrio's fish crate. His scale cities, now red mine and yours. The needle spins, landing on ours, in smudged Koine Greek. Darkness retreats. You're back in the loft, knees soaked in spilled ink. Walls restored, mostly. A new stain resembles Madagascar. The thread coils neatly by your foot, ends chewed. 3 more knocks rattle the street below. Deja vu. No, this rhythm's different, shaven to haircut, minus the punchline. The ledger slams shut, hiding its maps. You pocket the chewed thread. It hums, off-key, but earnest. Dawn remains a no-show. The ink's drying into a passport photo, your face, but with better posture. Background, uncharted islands. Expiration date, yesterday. A moth lands on your earlobe, whispering longitude coordinates. You swat it. The numbers stick, floorboards creak a warning. Shadows pool beneath the loom, not yours. Too many limbs, too many teeth, you freeze. It freezes. An awkward standoff until the ledger farts out a pirate map. Distraction. You bolt downstairs, ink-stained and island fluent. The alley air smells of burnt toast and existential compromise. Above, the loft's windows glow indigo, then snuff out. Somewhere, A thread snaps, your pocket buzzes, the chewed cords vibrating to the shaven to haircut rhythm. Against all instinct, you hum along. A shop door unlocks across the street. Its sign flickers. Atlantis Postal Service. All PACKAGS last seen 12,000 BCE. You glance back. The loft doorways, now a bead curtain. Each bead's a shrunken globe. One shines too bright, its continents rearranged into the logo of a Dutch East India Company knockoff. The thread tugs. Continent beads clatter, laughing. The chewed cord goes slack as green pins ignite in the alley's gloom. Something brushes your ankle, silk, dragging over stone. You glance down. Twin emeralds stare back, no pupils, just endless depth. A cat-shaped void purrs against your damp hem. Its tail flicks. You smell burnt myrrh and tax evasion. Nice collar, you mutter. No collar, just fur darker than a merchant's conscience. It butts your shin, clinks. Between its paws, a thimble, not silver or tin. Looks like hardened moonlight, probably stolen. You crouch. The cat retreats. Classic bait and switch, not falling for it. A paw bats the thimble closer. Engravings shimmer tiny hieroglyphs. Mainstream fact: Egyptians mummified cats with mouse mummies for afterlife snacks. This glyph shows a cat riding a scarab. Less mainstream. The thimble rolls toward a gutter. You grab it. Cold seeps through your sleeve, the chill of a pharaoh's tomb painted in sunscreen. The cat headbutts your knee. Demand. Approval. Hard to tell with deities in fur coats. Shadows thicken. Air tastes of wet papyrus. The cat's eyes flare reflections within reflections. You see yourself older, threadbare coat, 5 new scars, hands stained with star map ink. The vision snaps. Pass. You toss the thimble. It bounces, sounds like a clock tower at midnight. The cat hisses. Alley walls ripple. Bricks rearrange into a marketplace stall. Sign reads, Bastards bargains, no refunds, since 3000 BCE. Stupidest option, reach for the thimble again. You do it. Fingertips buzz. A voice like a comb through fur purrs. 3 hairs for safe passage. Quirky tidbit. Medieval French monks kept cats as living mousetraps and charged them rent. Safe passageware. The cat licks a paw. Smug. You pluck a hair. 2 more. The thimble warms. Your scalp tingles where strands were taken. Forged receipts flutter down, each stamped paid in full. The furball drops a pouch at your feet. Inside, dried lotus petals and a ticket stub. Destination, Alexandria. Departure time, yesterday. Historians still argue whether the lighthouse held a mirror or mere fire. But this stub mentions both, crossed out. Glowing moths erupt from the pouch. They swirl into an archway. Beyond it, sandstorms and the screech of unlubricated sundials. The cat saunters through. You hesitate. Its tail hooks your wrist. Temperature plummets. Sudden dunes. Stars spin like drunk compasses. The thimble's now a sundial gnomon stabbing your palm. Shadow points to an oasis. or mirage. Sand shifts beneath your boots, each grain a shredded love letter. The cat's gone. Your 3 hairs float midair, twisting into a rope ladder. It leads up to nothing. Classic cat logic. You climb. Rungs unravel behind you. No going back. Common sense weeps in the distance. A loom materializes overhead. Warp threads, cactus spines. Weft threads, crocodile sinew. The shuttle's a hooked thorn. You grasp it. Blood beads. The desert below becomes a tapestry, burning at the edges. Voice at your ear. Who knots the knotter? You turn. Empty air. The cat's laughing in hieratic script now, cartouche-shaped giggles orbiting your head. The thimble vibrates, burns, falls. You catch it midair. Vision blurs, now kneeling in the alley again. Thimble normal. Cat gone. Your pocket hums, the chew chords singing sea shanties. 3 gray hairs coil around it. Demetrio's fish stall reappears. His scale trays now hold lost and found. The needles stuck on ask your cat. A gutted mackerel stares at you. Judging, always judging. Laughter rattles from the postal service door. A postman leans there, uniform patched with old flags. Got a package, he grins. No teeth, just an abyss where molars should groan. You glance at the thimble. It winks. The postman's grin widens, jaw unhinging like a rotten ledger. A parcel plops into your hands. Wrapping paper crackles, papyrus scraps sealed with wax. It hums nursery rhymes in a dead Pharaoh's handwriting. You tear it open. Sand spills, not gritty, but soft as powdered bone. A single tear plops onto the grains. They hiss. Steam curls into the shape of a weaver's comb. Special delivery, the postman croaks. His uniform flaps, revealing skin stitched with cancelled postage. Handle with care, he dissolves into vapor. Somewhere a cat coughs. The loft shudders. You're back at the loom, how? The warp threads gleam wet. Your palms press the beam. Salt water blooms through the wood. The fibers drink turning milk white. Mainstream fact. Ancient Egyptians used natron to dry mummies. This salt tastes different. Bitter. Regretful. The tear stains spread. Threads stiffen into frost. Your breath fogs. A droplet hits your wrist. You look up. Beams creak overhead, weeping. Rain. No roof here. The moisture slides down invisible threads. Quirky tidbit. Roman soldiers got salt rations salarium, hence salary. This pays worse. Puddles form around your boots. Reflections warp. A face surfaces yours, but older, gaunt. Hair streaked with the same salt crust. She mouths, "Don't trust the knot." The vision shatters. The loom jerks. Shuttle leaps into your hand eager. Threads pull taut. You weave without deciding. Fingers knot patterns even your bones don't recognize. Salt crystallizes on the cloth. Each flake whispers. One says Marseille, 1347. Another, Aswan, drought year. Historians still argue whether tears weaken or strengthen linen. Your palms vote both. A cold draft snakes through the room. It carries a tune, nursery rhymes again. The postman's chuckle echoes. The thimble in your pocket vibrates. Burns. You drop it. Moonlight streams through the window, except the moon set hours ago. The thimble rolls, stops at a dark splotch. More salt tears. No ink. It spreads, a stain shaped like Cleopatra's death scene. Miniature asp, tiny crown. You jab it with the shuttle. The stain convulses, bulges, births a moth. Wings flutter, papyrus thin. Patterns shift, cartouches, stock market charts, graffiti from Pompeii. It lands on your shoulder. Antennae tickle your ear. 4 left, it whispers. 4 what's? The moth dissolves into salt. Now your shoulders damp. Great. Footsteps creak above no ceiling. Just rafters sagging under centuries of unanswered prayers. The loom hisses. You glance back. Salt-crusted threads spell stop. Too late. The shuttle drags your hand onward. A fresh tear falls, this one warm. Blood, no sweat, yours. The loom drinks it too. Threads turn copper. Smell like a blacksmith's forge or battlefields. The stain moth was right, 4 strands left unbroken. Wind howls through gaps in the wall, carries voices, children counting in Babylonian. A chorus of 4, 4, 4. The postman's vapor swirls into a funnel. Salt stings your eyes. Blinking, you see. The thimbles rolled into the loom's heart. Tarnished, dented, humming the same sea shanty from the chew cord. Reaching for it, you snag a thread. It slices your thumb blood black. The loom shudders exultant. Dark strands weave themselves. Pattern forms, a cat with 3 novas for eyes. Tears dry up, so does the salt. Floorboards stop creaking. The postman's laughter fades. Only the moth's warning remains scratched into the shuttle. You wipe your face. Palm comes away clean. No salt, no blood, no proof except the loom's new pattern. It glows hungry for more. The copper thread fights your shears. Blades screech like ancient hinges. Smoke coils upward, forging bitter fog that tastes of burnt offerings and bad decisions. Your eyes water. Alchemists once believed copper could channel celestial forces. Mostly, it channels blisters now. A draft carries whispers through the loft. Transmutation's a scam, someone mutters. Could be the loom, could be the 2 a.m. delirium talking. You grip the thread harder. It pulses like a live wire. Remember that Baghdad battery exhibit. Clay jars with iron rods. Some think they were primitive voltaic piles. This feels more like licking a 9-volt. The strand twists, suddenly slack. You overbalance, elbow hits the shuttle. Pain blooms. Sawdust clings to your sweat. Fitting. Paracelsus wrote about sweat's role in purifying metals, probably never clocked himself on a loom mid-alchemy. Smoke congeals into lettering above the beam, malleable but unyielding. Helpful. The thread starts weaving itself, curling into Ouroboros loops. Each knot glitters with false promise. Alchemists loved their serpents, less so their arsenic fumes. Your lungs agree. A bubble forms where the shears bit the metal. Inside, a miniature forge. Tiny figures hammer at an anvil. One looks up, tips his soot-stained hat. Historians still argue whether the philosopher's stone was metaphor or mineral. These guys vote yes. The loom yanks your wrist, thread snakes through the warp. Patterns emerge, coin rings, oxidized statues, a woman drinking from a lead cup, some poor sap's life story. Your palms itch. Mercury's bad enough in thermometers, worse when woven into fabric. The shuttle hisses. Copper strands multiply, crinkling like discarded candy wrappers. You swat one away. It sticks to your palm, oozes green. Verdigris tattoos a line to your pulse point. Glows. 1 part Celtic armband, 2 parts toxic friendship bracelet. Moonlight fractures through the haze. Not real moonlight, too jaundiced. The thread hums a Gregorian chant. Wrong era for alchemy's peak. The loft doesn't care. Time here folds like poorly alloyed tin. Your shears find the thread's midpoint. Resistance melts. Metal sighs, releases a stench of scorched time. Cleopatra's perfume base, according to Pliny. Also a decent pizza herb. The smoke writhes, shapes a key, a crown, a chalice. Standard alchemy bingo. The loom stills. Copper turns matte, dead metal again. Your finger traces the pattern. It feels like Braille. Midas wept here. A wet plink makes you glance down. The floorboards crying molten gold. Don't, warns a voice from the rafters. Too late. You crouch, dip a finger. The droplet hardens instantly ring-sized. 7-carat regret. The gold cracks, leaks black ichor. Some treasures stay buried for a reason. Above, the thread snaps taut. The loom jerks awake, weaving faster. Shuttle becomes a blur. Strands mesh into chainmail. Not armor, a cage. Ribbons of copper coil around your ankles. Cold, relentless. A moth bursts from the smoke, wings edged in tarnished green. It circles your head, trails a spiral of ash. Last month, you'd call this hallucination. Now, Tuesday, the moth alights on the loom. Its wings part, revealing a miniature battlefield. Tin soldiers clash with mercury swords. Alchemical warfare. Your history prof never mentioned this chapter. A soldier waves up at you, dissolves into a puddle. Dawn should come hours ago. The loft's single window stays stubbornly black. Copper's glow fades, leaving only the stink of burnt metal. That and the whispers. Always the whispers. You grasp the shears again. Blades find the thread's root. No resistance now. Snip. The strand falls limp. Floorboards groan. Somewhere deep in the walls, a bell tolls once. Copper's shadow lingers, twisting into the shape of a hangman's noose. The moth takes flight, demolishing the ash spiral. Wings brush your cheek. Dry, brittle. Then it's gone. Gold puddle solidifies into a dented thimble. You pocket it. The loom resumes its normal rhythm, if anything here's ever normal. Wind whistles through cracks in the wall, brings a new scent, fresh bread. No, sulfur, always sulfur. The The copper thread shivers, dissolves into dust. Your palms sting. Alchemy lesson concluded. Pale light trickles through the shutters, thin as watered milk. You glance up, wait for warmth. Nothing comes. Elizabethan actors used candles to fake dawn in theaters. This feels cheaper. The tapestry drinks the feeble glow, threads deepening to vantablack. Perfect. One Tudor stagehand's paycheck bought 3 pig-fat torches. This loft runs on bargain bin magic. Your shadow stretches across the floorboards, then detaches. It slithers toward the wall. You kick a spindle at it. Misses. The shadow pauses, flips you off with inky fingers. Okay, new nightmare unlocked. The shutters rattle, not wind. Something's drumming against them soft, insistent. You pry one slat open. A sparrow's there, beak tapping Morse code. Its eyes glow faintly amber. During the siege of Paris, rebels used sparrows to carry messages. This one's cargo, a single poppy seed. It spits the seed into your palm, then combusts. Feathers sizzle. You drop the burnt offering. The shutters slam. The tapestry's swallowing more light now. Your oil lamp dims to a guttering orange eye. Roman sundials sometimes lied. Noon markers shifted for political whims. You check your phone. 6:17 a.m. The screen dies mid-swipe. Of course. A seam rips overhead, dust rains down. You cough. Taste oxidized iron. That's not dust, it's rust. The loft's aging decades per second. Your jacket's sleeve frays at the cuff. Time-lapse decay. Historians still argue why Neolithic sun circles a line with solstices. Maybe they just liked pretty light shows. The last lamp filament pops. Darkness. Then bioluminescent threads flare in the tapestry. You squint. Recognize the pattern. Chicago's 1893 World's Fair Electricity Pavilion. Tesla's coils. Edison's grudging smirk. The image blurs. Reforms as a Zoroastrian fire temple. Flames coil like living serpents. Your nape prickles, actual heat this time. You stumble back, step on something gelatinous. The poppy seeds, sprouting vines erupt through floor cracks. Buds bloom into fist-sized lenses. Each focuses a beam of that anemic dawn light. The tapestry hisses, absorbs the intensified rays. Threads pulse, black turning to molten gold, then cooling to gunmetal gray. Alchemists called this solar ingestion. Mostly they just got sunburned. A lens shifts, light hits your left shoelace. It singes. You hop sideways. Now you're dancing the Charleston. If the Charleston involved dodging killer magnifying glasses. The sparrow's ashes swirl into a mini tornado. Forms a phrase. Feed IT. You'd rather feed it a grenade. The tapestry starts vibrating. Low C, maybe. Tibetan singing bowls hit that note during solar eclipses. Your fillings ache. Threads constrict. The woven Chicago pavilion crumples. Tesla's face elongates into a scream. Your stomach growls. The poppy vines wilt, releasing the scent of baklava. Psychological warfare. You kick the nearest lens. It shatters, shards melt midair. One splinter grazes your wrist. No blood, just a white scar shaped like Rodden's thinker. Cheeky bastard. The remaining lenses converge their beams. The tapestry gobbles the light, edges curling like burnt film. A shudder runs through the room. Stonehenge architects never dealt with sentient textiles. Lucky them, you brace against the loom. Too late. The tapestry detaches, floats toward the window, blocks the false dawn entirely. Total darkness, total silence. Then a wet, organic sound. Something's spinning thread inside your skull. Left hemisphere, you claw at your temple. Fingernails snag a silken cord. Pull. Out comes a yard of shimmering filament, sticky with cerebrospinal fluid. The loom's beckoning. Of course, you weave the thread into the tapestry's edge. It sews itself. Vision returns in flashes. The shutters hang open, revealing a blood-orange sunrise. The tapestry flexes, pressed against the window like starving cellophane. Contracts. Expels a supernova-bright pellet. It rockets skyward, detonates silently. Fake dawn becomes real morning. Birds chirp. Lies. The pellet's fallout drifts down iridescent pollen. It coats your tongue. Tastes like Earl Grey and betrayal. 18th century Parisians drank sunlight-distilled water as medicine. You spit. Medicine shouldn't leave hexagons on your molars. The loom snaps a thread. The tapestry sags empty again. Outside, the alley's locked in perpetual twilight. You check your wrist. The thinker's scar's gone. Replaced by a tattoo. A sundial with no gnomon. Classic burnout. Somewhere below, a shopkeeper shouts in Armenian. Salt and dried apricots. Normalcy's resuming or pretending to. The last bioluminescent thread winks out. You're left squinting at dust motes. They swirl, form a date. 1923-0723. The day the weave theory was disproven. Or was it? Floorboards creak, no rhythm. Just random notes. Debussy for termites. You sit. The tapestry twitches, coughs up a tarnished locket. Inside, a photo of your first apartment. The one you lost. Coincidence. The loft doesn't do those. Your eyes drift shut. The shutters slam. When you look again, the window's gone. Painted over with thick strokes of lead white. Daylight was overrated anyway. Your heel catches a warped plank. It groans like a stepped-on cat. You kneel, dig fingernails into the gap. Splinters prickle your palms. 18th century shipbuilders used whale oil to lubricate stubborn boards. This one resists even metaphorically. The floorboard snaps upward, revealing a cavity filled with mouse skeletons and thimbles. Beneath them, a linen square. You shake it out. The weave shows the loft, your loom central, its threads branching into infinite smaller looms. Recursive textile hell. Medici nobles hid love letters in floor gaps during plagues. This feels less romantic. A moth flutters from the fabric's edge, its wings etched with coordinates. 51 degrees 25 N, 0 degrees 19 W. You smirk. Greenwich Mean Time's birthplace. The moth alights, on your ear whispers a year, 1913. Tesla allegedly received signals from Mars that year. Coincidence or cosmic prank? The linen grows warm, threads rearranging. Now it shows Roman aqueducts feeding into your loom. Water becomes silk. Clever. You snort. Actual Roman plumbers used vinegar to dissolve limestone. The vinegar here's metaphysical. Mouse bones click together, spelling look up. You do, the ceilings sagging, exposing nested rafters. Each layer shows the same room at different eras. Victorian, Ming Dynasty, Roaring Twenties. Your current sweater appears in the 1980s stratum. Existential vertigo hits. Prehistoric cave artists painted over older images layers of meaning. You're living in a palimpsest with bad insulation. The linen tier drips something viscous. It smells of myrrh and WD-40. You dab it on the loose floorboard. The wood shudders, sprouts copper gears. Now your foot's stuck in a steampunk mousetrap. 17th century automata makers went mad from mercury fumes. You're going mad from sarcastic architecture. Prying free, you tear your pant hem. The exposed thread glows uranium green. It hums diphorol, Schubert's Trout Quintet. Of course, niche. German musicologists found fish-shaped notation in medieval hymnals. This feels like payback. The moth returns, now the size of a throw pillow. It vomits bioluminescent yarn. You're too tired to flinch. The yarn snakes into the floor cavity, knits itself into a ladder. Down, up, the moth shrugs with its antennae. Rungs creak under your weight. The ladder descends 5 inches, then dangles over void. Cold air rises, carrying a jazz standard from no particular decade. 1932. 2027. Thelonious Monk's ghost jamming with AI. Times a flat circle made of bad playlists. You retreat. The ladder disintegrates into July fireflies. Their light dies against the tapestry. Historians still argue whether Phoenician purple dye caused hallucinations. Right now, you'd vote yes. The original floorboard's gone. A new one sits flush, carved with Arctic star charts. You rub the grooves. Frostbite nips your fingertips. 19th century whalers tattooed constellations on their knuckles for navigation. This wood's better illustrated. Stomping the chart triggers a hidden hinge. A compartment slides open, smells like a grandfather clock's intestines. Inside, a needle pierced through a papyrus scrap. The text, the loom weaves the weaver. Deep, Zen wrestlers in Edo, Japan wrote similar koans, probably while drunk on sake. The moth dive bombs your head. You swat, it dissolves into pixels. Early CGI vibes. The pixels crawl into your nostril. Minty. Exploitiate. Com used sensory ads in 2008, taste-enabled pop-ups. This is worse. Footsteps echo below, not yours. Too rhythmic. Tap, drag, tap. Civil War soldiers developed distinctive limps from bayonet injuries. This gate's older. Neolithic, maybe. The sound fades, leaving a single obsidian thread on the stairs. You pocket it. Mistake. The thread grows heavy, drags your coat sideways. Now you're listing like a sinking schooner. Renaissance painters added lead to pigments for richness. Your wardrobe's rich in poor choices. Dawn glows through the painted shutters, pink veneer over black. You scratch the windowsill. Paint flakes reveal tomorrow's date. Deja vu or quantum error. The linen squares back in the hole, now showing you reading this sentence. Floorboards creak a warning. You freeze. Something under the loft mimics your stillness, breath for breath. Mesopotamian demons were said to mirror victims until stealing their faces. You blink first. It doesn't. The obsidian thread slips from your pocket, slithers into the wall. A new crack forms thin as a harp string. You press your ear to it. Distant waves crash. A ship's bell tolls once. Morning cedes to false twilight again. The loft exhales, satisfied. You're left with splinters, a moth-shaped hangover, and the certainty that every floor hides 3 more layers. Tugging your jacket straight, you step toward the loom, heel catching the same warped plank. It groans. The moth laughs in F-sharp. The moth's F-sharp laugh shivers into silence, replaced by glass cracking overhead. You shield your eyes. Moonlight pours through a new fissure in the high window, sharp enough to slice centuries of grime. Cold air leaks in carrying notes. Not music. Not quite. It's the sound a glacier makes calving slowed to a lullaby. 13th century Persian astronomers mapped lunar phases to predict monsoons. Or so your brain dredges up. The moonlight here defies phases. It's a single frozen chord, high and brittle. Your breath fogs in the beam. The cold seeps into your shoes. Victorian ladies stuffed newspapers in their boots for insulation. You trade your left sock for a broadsheet right now. Threads snag the falling light. They drink it, glow milk pale. Shadows stretch into shapes. Knots become crow's feet. Weft turns to wrinkle lines. The tapestry ages decades in seconds. Historians still argue whether medieval nuns wind silver into cloaks to mimic moonlight. You're watching a demo crash course in textile blasphemy. A half-knotted thread tugs your sleeve. It's fraying, leaking something that smells of burnt honey. Tibetan monks once used similar mixtures to preserve mandalas. This one's less holy. It stains your cuff, iridescent. The stain spreads. Now your whole arm shimmers like a gas spill. Practical, no. Festive. Argyle level, maybe. The moonbeam narrows, piercing the floorboards. Dust motes swirl into a miniature storm. You sneeze. The storm collapses, leaving a tiny key of ice. It melts before your palm meets air. 16th century locksmiths flavored their keys with mint oil to prevent rust. This phantom key tastes of wintergreen and regret. Above, the window's crack widens. Frost creeps down the walls, stitching lace patterns into the plaster. Your teeth chatter a Morse code even you don't understand. The cold sinks deeper. Arctic explorers rubbed alcohol on their skin to avoid frostbite. You settle for blowing on your hands, breath steaming in ragged clouds. One thread resists the freeze, a crimson spiral near the loom's edge. It pulses warm as a kitten's ribcage. Your pinky brushes it. The heat leaps up your arm. Flashback to that time you touched a live guitar amp. Same zing, minus the urge to air shred. Ancient Egyptians believed red thread warded off evil. Misplaced faith feels cozy right now. The moon note crescendos. Glass shards plummet. You duck. They disintegrate midair, becoming snowflakes that burn on contact. Each flake hisses a different year. 1812, 1945, 2076. A skald in Viking Iceland might called this weather with a grudge. You call it passive-aggressive precipitation. Freezing threads snap taut. Your shadows pinned to the wall, twitching like a moth in a spider's grip. Not your shadow. Wrong angle, wrong everything. It peels itself free, crawls toward the loom. Early horror films used pomegranate syrup for fake blood. You'd kill for that level of camp right now. The red thread flares. Your shadow recoils, flung into the frost lace. It sticks, thrashing silently. The remaining threads hum in tritone harmony. Medieval composers banned that interval, called it the devil's chord. They weren't wrong. Your fillings vibrate at frequencies that feel illegal. Moonlight fades, the window's edges melt, resealing with a sound like celery snapping. Cold retreats, leaving damp, warped wood, and the scent of burnt wool. You check your shimmer-stained arm. The iridescence has migrated, now outlining your left iris like cheap mascara. Groovy. A single ice chip lingers on the loom. You poke it, expecting frostbite. Instead, warmth blooms. The ice expands. A miniature greenhouse grows inside it. Tiny orchids sway. Aztec flower sellers navigated canals, using petal arrangements as maps. This orchid's petals spell RELAX. Misspelled with an extra X, you're relaxed adjacent at best. The ice shatters. Petals scatter, each dissolving into a firefly. They orbit your head, then dive bomb the tapestry. Burn holes appear. Through one, a glimpse of the same loft, but cleaner. No dust, no shadows. A potted fern thrives by the window. Alternate universe housekeeping. Floorboards creak. You spin, expecting more mirror demons. Just the moth, now normal-sized and soggy. It shakes itself dry, sprays you with droplets that taste of lithium and lemon. 80s-era psych trials tested mood-altering mists. This, tank the stock in Zoloft. The loom lies dormant, threads still as dead nerves. Yet your fingertips tingle, residual lunar static. Nikola Tesla claimed to draw power from moonlight. His lab notes read like psychedelic poetry. You flex your hand. Sparks dance between knuckles, then fizzle. Almost cool. A high whine pierces the silence, the window seal straining. Another moonbeam threatens to break through. You grab a dust rag, jam it into the crack. The rag stiffens instantly, frozen into a makeshift cork. Good enough. 19th century sailors plugged cannon holes with shredded uniforms and hope. Same energy. The moth lands on your shoulder, whispers a single word in your ear. Lunatic. Thanks, buddy. You flick it off. It cartwheels into the dark, trailing a giggle that echoes long after it's gone. Dawn's counterfeit glow bleeds under the door. Third false sunrise today. The threads ignore it, curled into fetal positions. You slump against the loom's frame. Exhaustion hits like a sock filled with sand. Elizabethan actors used sheep's bladder puppets to perform dream sequences. This feels like the director's cut, and the director hates you. Your breath finally steadies. The last ice chip melts, pooling around your boots. It refracts faint light into a spectral lullaby, slow and mournful. You close your eyes. For 6 seconds, there's peace. Then the moth coughs, audibly, somewhere in the dark. Cue the next disaster. Your nail snags, a thread you've crossed 100 times. The loft gasps like a punctured lung. 3 strands snap, sharp cracks echoing cathedral gunshots. Silence. Then, a wet click as they fuse back together. Medieval stockings, unraveled this way, nuns' cursed dropped stitches as Satan's hiccups. You're rewriting hell's playlist. The mended threads throb mismatched. One's tighter than a hangman's noose. Another sags like a drunkard's smile. The third hums middle C. Historians still argue whether Byzantine weavers encoded treasonous messages in carpet knots. You're staring at proof, or a textile nervous breakdown. Wind whistles through the repaired snag. The hole itself breathes. Each exhale smells of loam and burnt sugar. 18th century French confectioners buried caramel vats during revolutions. This scents more existential crisis with a hint of cardamom. Your knuckle bleeds where the thread bit. A droplet soaks into the warp, blooming rust red flowers across the weave. They wilt instantly, leaving charcoal outlines. Photographers once captured ghost images by spilling mercury on plates. This feels darker, less spirit photography, more textile crime scene. The loft tilts, or maybe your inner ears done a backflip. You grab the loom, its wood now fever hot. 17th century sick rooms hung tapestries to absorb illness. Is it vomiting those fevers back? The frame bucks. You're riding a bull made of regret and splinters. Shadows swarm the snapped threads. They don't just look sharp, they sound sharp. A susurrus of knife whetstones and dentist drills. Victorian kids played thread games, chanting rhymes while cutting yarn for divination. You're the yarn now. One shadow licks the bleeding knuckle. Cold spreads up your arm, down your spine. Your teeth chatter out the rhythm of Yankee Doodle. Archaeologists found ancient reed flutes tuned to tooth vibrations. Coincidence? Your molars say no. The threads go rigid, forming a tiny guillotine over your finger. It drops. You flinch, but the blade's a phantom. Just a draft. That's worse. Your heartbeat outpaces a hummingbird's hangover. 3 new knots pulse where the threads mended. They form a triangle, then a square, then a shape that hurts to focus on. Renaissance mathematicians debated whether God was a geometric symbol. This feels like geometry's revenge. A moth carcass crunches under your boot. Yesterday's jokester, now roadkill. Dust puffs up, forming a miniature sarcophagus midair. Pharaohs entombed scarabs with their dead. This moth gets a send-off fit for a soap opera extra. The room's breath deepens, inhaling moth dust and your panicked sweat. A faint giggle squeezes through the ceiling cracks. Romanian folktales warn of houses that swallow laughter, hoarding joy in their rafters. The loft's drunk on stolen mirth. A snapped thread rises, questing like a cobra. You freeze. It brushes your eyelid, leaves a sticky residue. 19th century actors used gum arabic for fake tears. This gunk smells of apricots and panic. Suddenly, the loom jerks. Your knees hit floorboards. Splinters bite palms. Something whispers. Repairs require payment. Toll booths in medieval Persia demanded poems instead of coins. You're fresh out of sonnets. The knots unravel voluntarily this time, threads retreating like ashamed serpents. Dust resettles, the loft exhales, a 30-second breath that flutters every tapestry. Deep-sea divers describe underwater caves breathing. Now you're the cave. Your pulse decelerates from rave beat to retirement home bingo. The threads lie dormant, almost too neat. Skeletons in pre-Columbian tombs were found tied into complex knots. You hope this isn't courtship. A final shudder ripples through the floor. The moth's sarcophagus dust settles, spelling sorry in Morse code. You don't forgive it. Swiss watchmakers once engraved apologies inside defective timepieces. At least they had style. Moonlight peeks through a new crack, third one tonight. It illuminates the mended threads, revealing a faint scar. Historians still argue whether Viking navigators stitched star maps into sails. This scar winks like Polaris. You slump against the wall, back soaked with icy sweat. The loom murmurs a lullaby, 3 notes repeating. Over and over and over. Peter the Great's court composer wrote a fugue meant to cure insomnia. This is the remix. Dawn's pale fingers grope through shutters. The threads stretch, yawning. Your own yawn cracks a rib. Exhaustion weighs more than a wool-filled Titanic, but the loft's quiet, its hunger briefly sated. The repaired snag glints, a veiled threat in silk. You swear the threads inch closer when you blink. Ancient Mesopotamians believed textiles hoarded dreams. You're too tired to dream, too tired to care. Somewhere below, the alley's cobblestones grind like molars. A thread plucks itself, hums a car alarm lullaby. Progress, you'll take it. The loft exhales again, this time smelling of rain and forgive weight. Did the floor just nudge you? No. Imagination. Right. You press a palm to the wood, it's neutral. Stonehenge's builders greased monoliths with animal fat to move them. The loft needs Whole30 and a spa day. Silence, real silence. Even the moth dust settles without commentary. You count breaths, 17, 18, the threads imitate, a twisted mirror of your rhythm. Tai Chi masters say breath sinks the universe. Screws in. The scarred thread twitches, testing your attention. Let it. You're fresh out of give a damn. Silk production began in China when a queen's teacup fell into a worm's nest. History's built on accidents. You're just another crash site. Eyelids droop. The loft hums lower now. A diesel engine lullaby. Your head nods. Once. Twice. Threads blur into a safety net. Or a noose. Ancient Assyrians hanged traitors with royal loom thread. Whatever. Sleep's a treason worth committing. A last snag tugs your sleeve, gentle this time. The room whispers without words. Next time, trim your nails. Message received. You drift, floorboards creaking a farewell march. The threads mend. The world unmends. Somewhere, scissors sharpen. The cobblestones below hum, not the usual drunken tavern songs. These voices rise, giggles dissolving into choked sobs. Your left shoelace unties itself, an old prankster's trick. Rome's roads used crushed pottery under paving stones for drainage. This alley's foundation feels slimier. A crimson thread lashes your wrist, same shade as Tudor executioners' hoods. It tugs toward the stairwell. You resist. 17th century Venetian nobles wore crimson to mask wine spills. This thread smells of ironwort and indecision. The whispers clarify. A woman's laugh. A child's rhyme in dead Dutch. A man begging in mangled Latin. Archaeologists found a Pompeii tavern wall scrawled with drinking songs. These ghosts need better material. Your heel grinds a loose stone. It squeals. The voices hush. Baltic sailors once believed shouting at stormy waves calmed the sea. You whisper, sorry. The cobblestones spit pebbles at your shins. The thread yanks harder, dragging you downstairs. Each step groans like a pensioner's spine. You pass the 4th floor landing, except the loft only has 3 floors. A chill licks your ankles. Victorian architects sometimes added spite steps to confuse ghosts. This staircase's grudge feels personal. Crimson fibers burrow into your palm. No pain, just warmth. Dyers in ancient Tenochtitlan used cochineal beetles for red pigment. Your bloodstreams now their canvas. The alley door looms, untouched since you entered. Its keyhole leaks mauve light. The thread vibrates, emitting a low C-sharp. Mongol warriors' bowstrings sang notes to intimidate enemies. This melody's more drunken karaoke than battle hymn. You press your ear to the wood. The voices surge. She stole my left bucklet. Mice in the flower again. Never found his toes, the thread pulses. You turn the knob. Cold slaps your face, not air, liquid moonlight. The alley stretches endless shop signs in forgotten scripts. A tavern's shadow beckons with smokeless lanterns. Budapest's ruined pubs recycled Soviet relics. This place repurposes regrets. Cobblestones squirm underfoot, alive and mildly annoyed. Your crimson tether strains toward the tavern. A drunkard's ghost staggers past, his spectral ale staining your shoe. 12 generations of London barmaids haunt public wells. This one winks like he runs the tour. The tavern door creaks open, its hinges shrieking in high German. Inside, a score of translucent figures crowd around nothing. No tables, no barrels. They mimed drinking for centuries. The thread pulls you behind the spectral bar. A trapdoor glows, same crimson as your leash. Ottoman coffee houses hid rebel meetings under false floors. You lift it. A staircase spirals into molten gold. The thread goes slack, inviting. Your foot hovers. 17th century miners feared fools' gold stairs that led to hell. This one radiates, the drunkard ghost materializes beside you. Shatsy don't. They still charge corkage fees. His breath reeks of spectral schnapps. The trapdoor slams, taking your sleeves button. Back outside, the LLEYS Chinese letter, Chinese letter, Chinese letter, Chinese letter. Normal dirt, normal stench of sewage. The crimson thread retreats into your sleeve. Historians still argue whether medieval streets were truly ankle-deep in waste. Your shoes side-eye the debate. A cobblestone sticks to your sole. You scrape it off, revealing a rusted nail. Roman engineers mixed volcanic ash in concrete. This hunk's got more tetanus than the Colosseum. The thread flicks your earlobe. It points up toward the loft's third window. Or maybe fourth. The stairs mutter as you climb. Every seventh step squeaks liar. French revolutionaries hid anti-royalist messages in floorboards. These planks just enjoy drama. Back in the loom room, your blood-red strand dances above the tapestry. It weaves itself into a half-formed tower, glows dyes. Phoenician merchants used red sails to signal plague ships. You check for rashes. The floor shudders, spilling you into the tapestry itself. Wool scratches your cheek. You're woven into a scene. Masked figures around a cistern. One holds your crimson thread. Their eyes follow your every twitch. A needle pierces the weave near your throat. No pain, but your voice vanishes. Ancient Greek actors switched masks to change roles. You're sidelined as the audience. Stage, script. The thread jerks you backward, spitting you onto cold floorboards. The tapestry shows new stitches, a figure fleeing a crimson tower. Your missing sleeve button winks from the scene. Dawn filters through dust. The severed thread lies curled, a dead serpent. You pocket it. Somewhere, the alley's cobblestones resume their gossip, quieter now. 36 million bricks paved Victorian London. Tonight, 512 whispered your name. The loom sits innocently, warp threads slightly parted. A final whisper rises through the floor. Next time, bring better wine. You glance at the tapestry. The crimson tower smolders. The figure's gone. Your hands reek of phantom ale and beetle dye. Ancient Persians perfumed diplomatic letters. You'd need a river of rosewater. The stairs creak, someone's ascending. Or descending, the thread in your pocket hums, luring you toward the moth-eaten curtain. Behind it, a second loom throbs. Crimson threads coil like vipers. Its shuttle grins. The moth-eaten curtain crumbles at your touch, its fibers disintegrating like centuries-old sugar. Behind it, another loom. Not similar. Identical. Same dust patterns, same warped oak frame. But its threads throb arterial crimson. Your own shuttle's silver gleam pales in comparison, like moonlight trapped under a nail. Roman twins Romulus and Remus had a wolf's teat to share. These looms share nothing but spite. The crimson shuttle twitches, a metronome's impatient tap. You reach, freeze. 16th century Flemish weavers kept twin looms to confuse rival guilds. One shimmered with Flanders gold, the other dripped forged cheap knockoffs. This one's hitching a ride on your pulse. A thread snaps free, barbed end grazing your thumb. No blood, but your tongue tastes copper. Medieval nuns spun sacred threads, using chalices as spindles. This fiber reeks of historians still argue whether twin looms symbolized duality or just rich guys showing off. The answer's written in the sawdust, your silver shuttles trembling like a chastened dog. You step closer. The crimson warp threads part, revealing their secret. Stitched into the fabric your own face, aged decades, gripping a broken shuttle. Phoenician mirror makers added tin to glass for clearer reflections. This image shows cracks your soul hasn't earned. Twin heat blooms in your palms. One loom's ache mirrors the other. You press both hands to the crimson frame. It purrs, a sound felt in molars. Victorian mediums claimed vibrating furniture signaled ghostly contact. This feels more like possession by a very fickle cat. A draft stirs the curtain remnants. Ash-colored moths flutter out, each wingspan marked with tiny numerals. 17th century tax collectors burned debt records. The resulting moths plagued London for months. These ones form arrows pointing upstairs, downstairs, definitely toward trouble. The second loom's treadle pumps alone, its rhythm matches the alley's cobblestone heartbeat. You press a palm to its frame. Warm, breathing. Tudor physicians diagnosed loom sickness in weavers who hugged their machines too long. Diagnosis stands. Your silver shuttle leaps from its rack, clattering to the floor. The crimson one rises instead, hovering like a challenged king. Byzantine emperors held silk-weaving monopolies to bankrupt competitors. This shuttle's cheaper tricks sting under the polish. Threads entwine your wrists, now red and silver in a lover's knot. Tug left. The tapestries show burning libraries. Tug right, drowned cities gasp beneath embroidered waves. Ancient Alexandrian weavers encoded wars in cloth. These patterns itch like unsent telegrams. The floorboards creak, not the usual groans. Precise, rhythmic. You glance down. Wood grain swirls into a spinning wheel silhouette. 18th century French spies hid cipher wheels in floor designs. This one's spinning out your fingerprints. A moth lands on the crimson shuttle, wings blurring into a miniature sun disk. Akhenaten's artisans hid solar cult symbols in linen weaves. This moth's got more photons than faith. It dissolves, leaving your retinas scorched. The twin looms hum in discordant harmony. You step back, heel crushing a moth corpse. Its wing numbers smear 33, 14, 97. Numbers stations once broadcast coded messages via radio. This one's broadcasting your shoe size to whoever's listening. Silver threads fray, crimson ones fatten. The second, loom's beams creak wider, accommodating something thicker than thread. Ottoman silk carpets wove in horsehair for durability. This monster's hungry for better meat. Your reflection warps in a hanging sheen. Younger face, older eyes, hands stained with colors that don't exist. Renaissance dyers guarded pigment recipes with arsenic-laced bribes. Your cuticles glow guilty. The curtain rod snaps, drapery pooling like a discarded funeral shroud. Behind it, the wall's gone. Only darkness pulses where plaster should be. Roanoke colonists carved their vanishing into fence posts. This void carves nothing. Crimson threads cinch your ribs, gentle as a hangman's knot. You exhale. The second loom exhales back, hot breath smelling of forge smoke and crushed beetles. Spanish Inquisition torture devices borrowed winch designs from silk mills. Progress bites. Floor numerals light up 33, 14, 97 as the moths predicted. You spin, but the numbers pivot with you. Medieval mathematicians argued whether 0 was a number or just God's margin note. These digits mock the debate. A high-pitched keen splits the air, both looms screaming in unison. Your silver shuttle cracks down the middle. The crimson one drips something sticky. Steppe warriors used fermented mares, milk as adhesive. This smells sweeter and infinitely worse. Light bleeds from the tapestry. Your aged doppelganger now stitches frantically, needle flashing, crimson thread snapping, lips moving in a silent rant. Elizabethan embroiderers hid Catholic hymns in floral patterns. This prayers for mercy. The second loom stills. Cold seeps into its wood. You pick up the fallen silver shuttle, its split edges sharp as betrayal. Somewhere, a moth laughs. The splinter bites deep your first blood offering. Ancient dyers used oxblood to fix crimson hues in temple tapestries. This wood drinks greedier. Your droplet swells, sinks into the grain, ignites a branching pattern. 17th century Hungarian embroiderers pricked fingers to stain bridal veils authentic. But authenticity never bubbled like this. Flax fibers squirm where blood meets thread. A low groan vibrates up your legs, the lofts sighing through rotten floor joists. Or laughing. Medieval scribes mixed ink from iron salts, and bull's blood their Bibles bled in rain. your scribbles alive. Ghost lights flare in the rafters, each a will-o'-the-wisp trapped in spider silk. History remembers swamp gas. You remember the second Loom's appetite. The blood path spreads, forking like Delphi's sacred laurel roots, divinations cheaper when the clues stab back. Your reflection smirks in a dangling shears blade. Same face that taunted you from the crimson tapestry, just younger and meaner. Renaissance barber surgeons used polished scalpels as makeshift mirrors. This one winks. Threads writhe where your blood soaks in knotting themselves into barbed wire geometry. Perfect symmetry, too perfect. 18th century lace makers smuggled prison break plans in floral motifs. This design's cell has your name carved 3 times. A moth dive bombs the stain, its wings disintegrating into red powder. You cough, taste burnt sugar, and regret. Napoleon's perfumers added gunpowder to cologne for martial vigor. This scents more surrendering at Waterloo. The floorboards flex like a bullfrog's throat. Blood spreads faster now, racing toward the twin looms. One groans, the other purrs. Ottoman tea servers dripped pomegranate syrup on carpets to lure favorable gin. These stains lure sharper teeth. Silver threads corrode where red paths cross, their luster flaking like mica. Your shuttle lies abandoned, a twitching relic. Viking metalworkers quenched blades in animal blood for temper. This temper tantrums rewriting the rules. A hot wind spirals up from the alley, carrying centuries of toll house dust and donkey sweat. It fans the blood patterns into a map of cracked arteries. Roman aqueduct engineers modeled their blueprints on circulatory systems. This roadmap's got no Rome, just veins. Something clicks beneath your feet. The snapped shuttles halves levitate, edges glowing white hot. They hover like dueling scimitars, then plunge into the nearest tapestry. 17th century Persian duelists settled arguments, WITH, Chinese letter contests. Your wounds vote for sabers. The fabric swallows the metal shards, convulsing like a snake eating its tail. Stitches burst, reform pulse. You stumble back. Pre-Incan weavers encoded census data in textile knots. This data streams counting your breaths and subtracting. Blood pools around your boots, reflecting no stars, no ceiling, just a flat black void. Antarctic explorers wrote of polar ennui, horizons so empty they drained resolve. This void drains faster. The second Loom's treadle slams down, freezing the blood spread. Crimson threads stiffen into thorned vines, encircling your ankles. Tudor rose gardeners trained brambles over treasonous graves. These barbs gossip in Latin, lightning cracks, soundless, scentless, splicing the air above the looms. Your shadow flares electric blue, then greensick. Historians still argue whether pre-electric textiles used glowworm secretions for night weaving. The debate just got neon. Your pulse thuds in tempo with the warping boards, a funeral march scored for rotten wood and hazard pay. The twin looms lean closer, beams creaking like a gallows mid-drop. French revolutionary silk workers wore hemp neckties to protest guillotine metaphors. Fashion statements die hard. Dried blood flakes off your palm, each scab a miniature Ogham script. They skitter toward the pattern's jagged heart. Medieval Irish monks chewed parchment edges to confound bookworms. These marks chew louder. A final moth emerges from your sleeve, its wings blank. It alights on the blood map, legs tracing the route you'll take. 13th century Mongol messengers tattooed directions on shaved scalps. This atlas itches more. The loft stills. Silver threads hang dead. Crimson ones gleam wetly. Somewhere beyond the warped rafters, scissors snip. The snipped thread recoils, springing skyward in a convulsion of salt and hemp. Your lungs flood with brine, your boots sink into phantom sand. Marvel as the unraveling strand becomes coastline, Portugal's Cabo de Roca sharpening into focus. 16th century Portuguese navigators steered by Voltas do Mar, tacking against Atlantic winds few understood. This map breathes. Waxed linen peels back layer after layer, Constantinople's golden horn, the Nile's bent elbow, Zanzibar's clove-scented shallows. Each wave crest etches itself in thread before dissolving. You taste copper, blame the blood still seeping into your boot treads, or Drake's lost treasure, swallowed by the Pacific in 1588. Modern divers still hunt his ghost galleon near Panama. Silent surf soaks the east wall, its tidal pull warping floorboards into damp curves. A barnacle-studded chain materializes, links clinking despite the hush. Venetian galley slaves wore seaweed amulets to ward off drowned men's whispers. These chains prefer gossip. The loft tilts starboard. You grab a beam crusted with centuries of candle soot and shipwright resin. 1793, HMS Somerset wrecked off Cape Cod. Cannons plundered for revolutionary bullets. The wood groans, mutinous timbers remembering their first sinking. A compass rose blooms where your blood drips, north shifting with each splatter. True east becomes the loom, west fades into ale-stained port ledgers. Norse sunstones let Vikings navigate under clouded skies. Icelandic spar, refracting light even through fog. This compass mocks Polaris. Mold spreads, green-black continents claiming the southern tapestry. Kangaroo-shaped shadows leap through uncharted waters. Hologram continents pulse, vanish, reemerge inverted. Sailors once believed the Southern Cross constellation sang to albatrosses. Ornithologists disagree. Your blistered palms vote for crooning stars. A wet chuckle rasps behind you. Whirl, nothing but rigging lines swaying in stale air. Or not. Drake's drum supposedly beats when England's in peril. But Drake never wore a cologne stinking of pickled herring and betrayal. The map ruptures, spilling indigo currents that climb the walls like starved ivy. Mercury-based dyes made Tudor mapmakers' hands shake. This current makes yours blister. 18th century naval surgeons treated scurvy with spruce beer and sailors' arrogance. The cure's worse here. Threads snake around your wrist, dragging you toward the eastern warp. Manila galleons took 4 months to cross the Pacific. You take 4 stumbling steps. Your shadow stretches, twists, becomes Ferdinand Magellan's disputed silhouette. Historians still argue whether his surviving crew ate his pancreas. The map licks its wounds. 1652, Blaise Pascal invents the syringe. You need 12. Saltwater boils where your calf brushes a thread labeled terra incognita. Dutch East India Company ships carried more nutmeg than common sense. This spice root festers. A kraken's beak pierces the fabric jet black and gleaming with false memories. It retracts, leaving a frayed hole, exhaling whale songs. 19th century whalers' wives knitted drowning sweaters meant to weigh down corpses. This yarn's eager to help. Midnight blue ink pools around the broken shuttle. Dip a finger, it sears X over your heartbeat. Pirate treasure maps were often coded fabric swatches, safer than parchment when permanence meant execution. This marks in no hurry to fade. The western wall sheds plaster, revealing a trompe l'oeil storm. Waves claw at a 3-masted schooner. 1799, the HMS Lutin sinks off Holland, her bell salvaged for Lloyd's of London. Your ears ring with gold bullion and bad bets. Arctic frost crawls up your spine. White threads proliferate, outlining Ross's lost expedition. Frozen beef tins, cyanotic lips. Victorian exploration, novels romanticized icicles. This frostbite feels like plagiarism. 3 frigate birds circle the central loom. Their cries etch ley lines in the air, vanishing at the rafters. Polynesian navigators memorized star paths as menteiths, mental threads guiding canoes between atolls. These birds weave a darker stitchwork. The map contracts, hemorrhaging latitude lines. Wood squeals as the loft lurches back to level. Someone's shouting in Sabir, the Mediterranean lingua franca of corsairs and desperation. Your ankle twists, fitting for a night spent dancing with dead cartographers. One thread remains taut and quivering. Pluck it. The note vibrates at a frequency that shatters salt crystals. Then silence. 1845. Franklin's ships abandoned in Arctic ice. This final vibration feels like surrender. Warmth blooms above the warping board. Dawn. No, a spectral St. Elmo's fire clinging to the sailcloth. 16th century sailors considered it a sign of St. Erasmus, protection. You consider jumping. The last wave recedes, leaving grit and gull feathers. High tides past. Somewhere beyond the damp plaster, scissors snip. The scissors' echo fades, replaced by fabric hissing, like asp scales on hot stone. Silk shimmers into being not mere cloth, but liquid arrogance dyed Nile green. Your soles sink into its surface, each step rippling mirages of reed boats and limestone palaces. Cleopatra VII Philopator, last pharaoh of Egypt, spoke 9 languages fluently, including the silent tongue of loaded dice. The silk parts, revealing an Alexandrian banquet hall choked with rosewater smoke and unfinished business. Dried lotus petals crackle beneath your heel, their scent sharper than history recalls. Scholars reconstructed her perfume from residue in Amphorisco's vials. Top notes of myrrh, base notes of political desperation. The air thickens with it, cloying and calculated. A mosaic floor depicts Caesarion's birth, his miniature face already weary with inherited ambition. Cleopatra secured her throne by smuggling herself into Caesar's chambers inside a linen carpet. Or was it a bedroll? Historians still argue whether the stunt was logistical genius or erotic theater. The silk ripples your ankle deep in the debate. Something cold grazes your left foot. Glance down. A serpentine shadow coils where your shadow should be. Its head lifts, mimicking the uraeus crown on Cleopatra's bust across the room. You shuffle sideways. The shadow follows. Cobras feature heavily in her death lore, but Roman accounts conveniently ignore her pharmacy expertise. A pin dipped in hemlock would have been tidier than wrangling vipers during a suicide. The silk shudders agreeing. Pomegranate seeds burst underfoot, their juice staining the weave Caesarian purple. Cleopatra's parties served ice hauled from the Lebanese mountains. A flecks of wealth melted into puddles of envy. Your fingers brush a fresco, still tacky with pigment. Mark Antony's face flakes off, revealing Ptolemy XIII's decomposing smirk beneath. Sibling marriages kept Egyptian power pure, genetic disasters optional. The room tilts, you brace against a pillar, carved with eclipse records. A gilded mirror materializes, its surface mercury blurred. Lean closer. Your reflection wears coal wings thick enough to crush a kingdom. Ancient Egyptian makeup blended malachite and crocodile dung, germ-killing glamour with a side of existential dread. The mirror fogs. A handprint appears not yours. It writes in demotic script, beware poets bearing chronology. Bronze cobwebs snag your sleeve. An ornate clepsydra leaks seconds into a sandstone basin. Cleopatra timed her Rome arrival to coincide with Venus's rise. Theater kid energy meets astrological warfare. The water clock groans, its gears grinding out 43 years too fast. You blink, resin-coated bandages now spiral toward the ceiling. Mummification took 70 days, deification takes one decent propaganda campaign. The serpent shadow tightens around your calf, its pressure cool and insistent. Follow its gaze upward. A crack splits the silk sky. Stars pour through, but these constellations bend. An aviary of Egyptian asterisms. Bennu the heron Meskhetiyu, the ox-leg, circuit's scorpion tail. The loft's original rafters loom beyond their rot, contrasting with cosmic order. A wine cup rolls into your path, chipped lapis lazuli half filled with vinegar. Cleopatra once dissolved a pearl in vinegar, then drank it to win a bet against Antony. The drink's acidity survives the centuries. It sears your tongue during an experimental sip. The shadow hisses laughter. Linen curtains ignite without heat, their ashes forming maps of the Battle of Actium. Octavian's fleet advances in char silhouettes, the silk's edges fraying into Antony's retreat. Naval strategy curdles into personal tragedy. The infamous asp materializes, perched on a headless statue of Isis. You half expect a punchline. Instead, it sheds its skin, revealing obsidian scales etched with Shabti spells. Papyrus fragments swirl tax records, Greek poetry. A child's drawing of a three-masted ship, Cleopatra's Alexandria, housed the greatest library of antiquity. Its echo here feels haunted by overdue scrolls. The serpent nudges you toward a half-unraveled tapestry. Scenes of her 279-day Nile cruise with Caesar blur into childbirth blood and ironclad treaties. Something pricks your thumb. A golden needle lies at the tapestry's edge. Thread it. The loom accepts your offering, weaving your DNA into the frayed depiction of her mausoleum. August 12th, 30 BCE. Suicide by snakebite or state-sanctioned murder. The needle pulls you forward, forcing stitches through layers of papyrus propaganda. Lotus perfume spikes, now laced with silt and sweat. The asp's shadow splits into twin serpents, one vanishing into the tapestry's edge. The other coils around the loom's beam, watching. Some claim Cleopatra's heirs survived, crafting textiles in Roman alleys. The silk dims, the final stitch trembles. Cold marble presses against your back. You're leaning against the loft's original wall. The serpent shadow dissolves, leaving a dust outline where empires once tangled. Spent perfume oils crust your fingertips. Elsewhere, fabric rustles, scissors stir, something Egyptian and inevitable begins its crawl. Charred threads powder beneath your fingertips, ash whispering secrets even fire couldn't keep. The scent hits next, not campfire coziness, but the acrid tang of Alexandria's dying scrolls. Smoke curls from the tapestry's edge, no flame, just aftermath. A chunk of carbonized linen crumbles, revealing charred ship masts and panic-frozen scholars. You're smelling history's most notorious library fire, 6046 BCE. Julius Caesar's accidental barbecue. Historians still argue whether he torched those scrolls on purpose or just brought bad luck to a pyromaniacal date. Your sneeze scatters blackened threads. They reform as a mosaic of hero stratus. That Greek dude who burned Ephesus, temple for clout. Classic influencer move. The loom groans, its warped frame steaming where fire licked centuries ago. A melted shuttle sticks to your palm. It's silver, now a dolly clock dripping toward the floor. Cleopatra's descendants supposedly smuggled library fragments into alleys like this, weaving knowledge into tapestries outrun Roman censors. A half-burned scroll levitates. Its surviving text details firefighting techniques using vinegar-soaked sponges. Too little, too late for Callimachus poetry. You poke the parchment, it disintegrates into spice market Arabic. Then Pythagorean math. Then a grocery list for olive oil and mummy wrappings. The fire ate layer after layer. Ratings websites for Roman generals, maybe. Caesar's Yelp review. 1 star. Burned down my workplace. Cinders glow in your periphery. Phantom flames reenacting their greatest hit. The air tastes of papyrus apoptosis. Every culture fears library fires, except maybe that one Assyrian king who bragged about torching rivals' books. Your shadow stretches wrong, elongated like a fleeing scholar clutching scrolls. Step on it. Feel the crunch of imaginary wax tablets underfoot. A heatless ember lands on your sleeve. It blooms into a lotus flower. Then a screaming eagle. Then Octavian's smirking face. Classic PTSD kaleidoscope. Wafted away, your hand comes back dusty. They say Alexandria's ashes fertilized crops for miles. Knowledge turned into wheat, turned into bread, turned into empire. Circle of life, with extra plagiarism. The loom's scorched petal sticks your foot slams down, snapping a warp thread dyed funeral black. A chorus of hisses erupts, not snakes this time, angry librarians. Nope, just stress hallucinations. You pick char from your nail, it reassembles as a microsculpture of Hypatia's star globe. Too soon, always too soon. Moonlight bleeds through the ceiling's smoke stains, playing shadow puppets on the remnant fabric. A hand emerges, offering a clay jug. Peer inside, vinegar, obviously. The sponges are upstairs, probably. You pour some on the burnt edge, watch threads sizzle like a tick-tock trend. The fire recoils, or maybe the tapestry just judged your technique. Linen wrinkles where flames once danced, creating valleys of ash gray and battle red. 3 generations of textiles students argued this color was phoenix puce. Failed their theses, obviously. You spit on a soot clot, it dissolves into hieroglyphic profanity. Cursive insults hit different in demotic script. A breeze sneaks through the loft, rearranging cinders into Ptolemy's lighthouse. Its mirror, famed for burning ships, now just glints weakly in the soot. Your breath scatters it, a coughing fit later. You're inhaling someone else's lost thesis on Achilles' heel blisters. Knowledge isn't power, it's aerosolized regret. The burnt edge ripples, inviting you to stitch. Needle, charcoal stick, fingers, you press a thumb against the damage. The tapestry accepts your DNA. Blood smears brown on singed linen, adding a new pigment to history's palette. Threads squirm, they're weaving your fingerprint into the great fire's casualty list. Light flickers a lantern. Nope. A bioluminescent beetle chewing on plagiarized philosophy. Its green glow illuminates half a phrase. Truth is fire's first casualty, and also its second. The rest is smoke. You pocket the bug, emergency reading light for later tragedies. Singed silk brushes your neck cool somehow, probably made from asbestos widow's tears. Century 21 humor meets ancient safety standards. Brush it off, the fibers cling like literary critics defending their favorite dead white guys. The last ember dims, a black hole where heat once lived. Your pinky traces the void, it's sticky, like dried honey or poor decisions. Lick it. No, lick it. The loom creaks, a parental tusk in wood form. You withdraw. Somewhere beneath the ash, a love poem survives. 2 lines about figs and cavalry charges. Typical Alexandrian mix. Memorize it, the next fire's only minutes away. Footsteps echo upstairs, too heavy for rats, too light for librarians. Let's call it the inevitable. You freeze. The burnt edge seals itself, hiding your meddling. Charcoal dust coats your tongue, the aftertaste of questions no one will ask. The air thickens. Needle clicks swarm like metallic crickets. You spin. No hands clutch the bronze spikes, jabbed into fresh linen. Your shadow stretches taut across the floor, pinned by invisible stitches. Historians still argue whether Roman textile factories used blind children for delicate work. New money's dark logistics. A dropped pin hits your boot. It vibrates like a tuning fork struck by ghosts. The B, a C, K, L, a S, H, Chinese letter, Japanese letter, Japanese letter, Japanese letter, Japanese letter. You reach for the nearest shuttle. It shrinks from your grip, rewinding its own thread. 3 stitches unravel, revealing an embroidered eye. Its pupil dilates, Judea's palm groves reflected in oily iris gloss. The needles slow, judging. 4th century Egyptian. Weavers allegedly encoded heresies in towel patterns, God as a 2-headed loom. Your throat tightens. Did they get caught? Not the point. A cold draft parts your hair. Something leans over your shoulder. Breath mints. No camphor and bone dust. Your fingers tremble. The latest stitch kinks like a broken spine. Thread squeals. Too tight. A disembodied tusk echoes the sound of academia reviewing your life choices. You cough, an excuse. Pathetic. Moonlight bleeds through a new hole in the ceiling, shaped like Peter of Antioch's excommunicated shadow. Mainstream fact. Medieval monks wove communion wafers into tapestries during famines. Edible art with salvation carbs. The needles snipe faster, correcting your amateur tension. Embarrassing. A skein of thread unspools itself, forming a ladder to nowhere. 5th rung up, tiny handprints pulse in the fibers. Historians found similar marks in Marseille's Ludus Tropicus fabric, Century 14 carnival flags for plague time parades. You climb. Gravity tilts. 3 steps vertical become a crawl across the ceiling. The loom shrinks below, still clicking. Your elbow brushes a cobweb. It sticks like salted caramel. 8 segmented legs skitter over your knuckles. Not a spider. A buttonhole. Walking embroidery. Of course. You flick it off. It transforms midair into a silver thimble, then a scold's bridle, then nothing. needles approve. 2 threads cross, forming a compass rose dripping rust. North points to your left kidney, useless. South shimmers, Byzantine silk traded for Scythian bodyguards. You pluck the eastern thread. It hums a Gregorian chant in reverse. 12 voices whisper your name as an anagram. Let's not solve that. A drop of sweat hits the linen, blossoming into the Battle of Manzikert. Tiny horsemen clash. Seljuk arrows pierce Byzantine platelets. Leaders debate terms using your freckles as treaty maps. Blink, it's just salt staining cotton. The needles cluck. Too dramatic. You yank a tangled thread, the floor quivers. Roman concrete secret exposed. Volcanic ash makes great mortar, less great dietary supplement. The needles freeze. Did you just crack the code? No, they resume bored. Sparks erupt where gold thread meets your sweat. Alchemy 101. Transmute fear into guild fees. Your pulse syncs with the shuttle's drag. It's hacking your nervous system. 1 stitch per heartbeat. Too intimate. A knotted loop slips free, memories flood in. 9th birthday. Tangled yo-yo, grandmother's funeral linen. Lost earring in a hotel vent. The needles purge the sentiment, reknotting facts only. Emperor Wu's concubines wove mercury-soaked shrouds, immortality through textile poisoning. They died radiant. Your pinky swells, threaded by a red fiber. Blood, no Tyrian purple, reserved for emperors, executed for unauthorized dye use. You're royalty now, baby. The needles stitch a tiny crown, then unpick it. Humbling. Lightning fractures the room, briefly exposing wire-thin figures hunched over ghostly looms. They mirror your movements, half a second delayed. 13th century Florentine mirror weaving, or industrial espionage hallucinations. The needles hiss focus. You inhale peppercorns and panic. The air itself plates into a rope ladder. Climb or be woven. Your shoelace snags. 9,000 Persian rug weavers allegedly knotted their despair into Alexander's conquest. Unverifiable, but feels true. A thread snakes into your sleeve. It tattoos your forearm with voting tallies from Byzantium's hippodrome riots. Blues versus greens. Ancient sports hooligans wrecking a city. The ink fades, leaving goosebumps. The needles vote you most likely to drop the shears. Dawn's first light creeps through the window, threads pale, stretching toward false promises. You cut one, it bleeds lamp oil. Ottoman night watch lanterns float past, then dissolve. The needles surrender, clattering into a bronze bowl. Silence. Your reflection warps in a silver spindle, showing 100 faces woven into yours. Ancestor amalgamation. Genetic quilting. The air exhales. Unseen hands brush your nape. Apology or threat. Either way, tip included. Threads rise. A suspended cathedral of lint and half-truths. Touch a column. It crumbles into shipping manifests for Coptic dyes. Tires, murex shells, cochineal beetles, crushed sapphires. Smell the exploitation. A single stitch glows, judgment rendered. You tie it off, the final knot mirrors your fingerprint. Approval hums through the floorboards. For now, the loom stills, but the eyes remain. Patient, always patient. The thimble's curve warps your face, jawline stretched like taffy, eyes smudged into thumbprint ghosts. Younger visages surge beneath the silver, lips moving in silent litanies. Loop, twist, pull. Their needle scars match yours. 5 dynasties of weavers blink through the polish. Hanfu seamstresses, Incan kipunatters. A Victorian widow rehemming her husband's shroud for the 7th time. Their blisters leave fog trails on the metal. You tilt the cup, a face solidifies. Woman in indigo robes, fingers dyed woad blue. Yuan dynasty tax records confirm her Lin Mei state silk workshop. Paid in rice and lacquer hairpins until her hands seized into claws. The thimble steams, suddenly hot. Mainstream fact: Egyptian weavers earned 3 jugs of beer daily. Hydration or hazard. Nobody clocks out sober. A bead of sweat rolls down your wrist, plummets into the thimble. Ripples distort into crop circles. Then Umayyad textile tariffs. 9th century Cordoba, charged per stitch density. Your nail taps silver, ping, releasing the stink of fermented flax. Quirky tidbit: medieval monks stitched fart jokes into altar cloths. Holy flatulence preserved in gilded thread. The faces smirk. One reflection lingers, a girl no older than 12. Ashford's Luddite riots. She smashed power looms in 1812. Executed at dawn with a rope made from her own yarn. The thimble frosts over you, almost drop it. Historians still argue whether Byzantine silk subsidies caused the Hyperpyron crisis, or just pissed off Venetian merchants. Threads snake up your calves, anchoring you to the floor. The thimble murmurs, a Rosetta Stone of coughs and bone creaks. Translate: you're the temporary host. Each weaver before you etched their exhaustion into the tool's alloy. A pension plan of shared fatigue. You glance at your distorted eyes. Crow's feet already deeper than 5 minutes ago. A face surges forward, mustachioed man in a Weimar-era waistcoat. He mouths Verlarin through mercury-silvered teeth. 1923, inflation. Wove banknotes into quilts when money bought less than thread. Your pinky twitches. His tremor lives in your joints now. The thimble offers no returns policy. You shake it, a sad maraca. 17 thimbles materialize midair, Newton's cradle of indentured artisans. They clack work unpaid, work eternal, work inherits. A drop of your spit becomes a guild emblem mid-fall, 3 needles piercing a closed eye. The original Union logo, or a warning label. Lightning gutters, the vision phrase. Your reflection returns, plus extras, pupils now kaleidoscopes of every weaver's last blink. Feels like binge-watching lifetimes through a keyhole. The thimble vibrates, charging for the service. A strand of hair turns frost white. Convenience fee. Threads loop your wrists, gentle as Venetian blind cords. You let them steer, because resistance tore ligaments for Marta H. Levkova in 1607. Prague's silk court archives detail her unfortunate entanglement. You stitch slower, denying the pattern's hunger. The loom yawns, 100 jaws unhinging. Shadows congeal into time cards, punch marks bleeding rust. Clock in sunup. Clock out, never. The thimble crescendos, showing a Mesoamerican weaver paid in cacao. A Dhaka muslin artist coughing jute fibers. Your own head bent under Edison's first electric loom. Wage theft spans millennia. You exhale the thimble fogs. Words form. Labor is heirloom. A choice, unspool your hours into the collective spool, or the floor cracks, geysers of unfinished samite erupt. Carthaginian sea silk, lion velvet, all demanding closure. A needle pricks your thumb, the drop hovers. Become ink for some future weaver's contract. You flick it aside, no free autographs. The thimble dims, disappointed. Voices swarm, a beehive of accents. Dodged us once, Amos. Try the Armenian join. Grief makes the best backing fabric. You hum a union chant, out of tune. The loom resumes, stitching your resume into the selvage. Previous experience, 23 minutes ago. Reason for leaving, the scissors beckoned. Dawn shivers through cracked glass, your reflection finally stills. The weavers retreat, but their calluses linger under your skin. You pocket the thimble, it's lighter now. The next user's problem. Silence, except for the persistent click of someone else's needle. Somewhere, starting fresh, the loom growls a sound like splintering violins. Your last yard of warp lies naked, daring you to finish. Everyone hates the final stretch. Even 3rd century Coptic weavers hid riddles in hems to avoid closure. Your shuttle balks, suddenly heavy as an anvil. The lion riots began over pay, and whose job was oiling treadles. Historians still argue whether mechanical looms caused the Industrial Revolution's speed, or just its repetitive stress injuries. Threads whip your cheeks, gentle warning slaps. Napoleon's men once pilfered Egyptian tents to weave souvenir scarves, hence campaign. You smirk until a linen scrap slithers up your sleeve. 17 needles hover jury and executioners. The loom's beam creaks, cathedral doors at a heretic's trial. Moonlight glints off the empty warp. 10th century Andalusian weavers believed voids held jinn, tempting them to overstitch. Your palm hovers, breath fogging the tension. Air currents smell of profit margins and sacrilege. That gap wants filling, but how? A raspberry bush thorn snags your thumb, medieval Europe's answer to pins. Quirky tidbit. Venetian dyers used crocodile bile for black, hence venomous silk. You suck the bead of blood, metallic, with notes of overtime. The loom purrs, a sound no union contract ever muffled. Shadows pool into a Blackfoot elder's warning. Never finish a basket completely, lest you trap the maker's soul. But this ain't willow shoots. The warp hisses, weaving you a ladder or noose. Your knees crack. 1811. Luddite protest chants echo in the pops. A moth lands on the beam. Wing patterns match your unfinished zigzags. Coincidence? Ask the 14th century Chinese weavers who embroidered accidental moth holes as art. You blow gently, it dissolves into silk dust. Convenient. The loom's heartbeat slows. Passive Chinese letter. Your spine remembers every weaver who knelt here, including the one who sewed Lincoln's second inaugural coat. Threads knot themselves. Floridian torpedo sponges taught humans braiding. Not that it helps now. The final inch glows, radioactive with potential. A splintered bobbin rolls underfoot. 1940s parachute riggers wove their initials into panels, last-ditch signatures. You hesitate, then pluck a hair. Spin it into the warp, vanity, or vandalism. The loom sneezes, your follicles ache for weeks. Dawn licks the horizon, but won't commit. The tapestry darkens, a black hole slurping photons. Your scissors gleam forbidden fruit. 17th century Japanese weavers hid blades in their obis, claimed they were pattern cutters. Liars. Parchment cracks under your heel. A 1790s millworkers petition for bathroom breaks. The ink swims, forming new grievances. Unsanitary thimble sharing. Phantom loom lice. Mandatory embroidery on weekends. You nod, solidarity across centuries. The warp shivers hungry for closure and contempt. A spider rappels down, offering a silk safety line. 8 eyes roll at your indecision. Arachnid contractors built Westminster Abbey's first tapestries. Underpaid, underfed, undercredited. You wave it off, no subcontracting now. The air thickens, pension plans, and pensioners' curses. Breath held, you nudge the shuttle. It stalls, then surges, torpedo through treacle. Warp threads braid your pulse into the weave. Done. The loom falls silent, jealous. Carpathian villagers say unfinished textiles. House wayward souls, yours now qualifies. Footsteps creak on the stairs, right on schedule. The next sucker's problem. Shadows pool into grasping hands. The tapestry's edge ripples like siege tent canvas. You stab the shuttle forward. 18th century French weavers worked blindfolded to feel the truth of the thread. A cold breath hits your neck, smelling of vinegar. The Roman method for fixing dyes. Historians still argue whether Byzantine silk portals were metaphor or literal doorways for tax collectors. Your pinky tangles in warp threads, same way Lady Godiva's hair got caught mid-protest ride. The joke dies as spectral fingernails score your forearm. No health insurance covers paranormal tetanus. A skein unravels, revealing Minus's labyrinth blueprint. Quirky tidbit. Manones used thread puzzles to test suitors and confuse grocery lists. The loom bucks, trampling your toes like a spooked dromedary. You curse in Old High German, which 4th century Frankish weavers reserved for dropped spindles. A shadow figure hisses, sounds suspiciously like your middle school home ec teacher. Its grip tightens, stitches pop. Quirky tidbit. Ancient Mesopotamians wove curses into carpets, waterproof, ones for bathhouse enemies. Moonlight catches a wandering thread. It zigzags northward, imitating Viking trade routes. Your scissors hover, snip it, and risk reenacting the Silk Road's worst told disputes. Historians still argue whether Ottoman tapestry borders encoded military signals or just rude embroidery jokes. A moth-eaten swatch slaps your cheek, passive-aggressive feedback from the linen union. You spit on the bobbin 19th century Lancashire weavers used saliva to mend threads mid-loom. The shadows recoil. Apparently manners aren't dead. A frayed gold strand loops your wrist, pulled taut like a Tudor-era corset lace. The air reeks of burned honey. Byzantine incendiary silk, recipe number 6. 15 spectral fingers pry at the weft. Persian rug merchants still use this haggling technique. You need the treadle hard. Medieval Flemish weavers invented that move for pushy guild inspectors. The shuttle screams, then coughs up something resembling a surrender flag. Quirky tidbit. Pre-Columbian Mexicans wove sacrificial hair into temple banners, split ends and all. A triangle of fabric tears, echoing the 1911 triangle shirtwaist factory size. You jam a rusted needle through the gap, instant regret. Victorian seamstresses called this rattooning, and also the devil's handshake. The shadows ooze ink, darkening the threads like Qing dynasty censor brushes. Your knuckles bleed, 14th century Florentine red. The last warp thread glows. Marie Antoinette's dressmaker hid emergency brandy in hollow bobbins. You bite the knot, vintage regret. 100 whispers rise, Jacobean wool carders, gossiping through the dust motes. Historians still argue whether Egyptian mummy wrappings had intentional stains or just bad laundry day. Silk slithers up your calf, same way Cleopatra smuggled messages past Octavian's guards. You shudder, great, now the tapestry's flirting. The loom creaks a sea shanty, wailing wives wove them into sails to mock drowned husbands. Shadows solidify into Edwardian mill owners because capitalism's ghosts never clock out. Your elbow smashes the beater. 17th century Japanese weavers would have seppuku'd for less. The tapestry ripples, revealing a map of every bad decision since the Bronze Age. Quirky tidbit. Incan knotted quippus might recorded taxes, or epic poetry about llamas. Either way, burn after reading. 3 threads snap, releasing the stench of Napoleonic soldiers. Unwashed banner stockpiles. You retaliate with a half-hitch knot. Outlawed in 1893 for excessive sass. The shadows spit rust, echoes of Birmingham's corroded looms. Moonlight glints on your thimble, now dented like a WWI trench helmet. A voice booms from the rafters, tastes of paprika and Habsburg decrees. Finish it, and inherit 7 generations of carpal tunnel. Ugaga occupational hazards transcend mortality. The shuttle shakes. It's either weaving or vibrating into another dimension. 18th century Scottish tweed contracts flash behind your eyes. Fine print in Gaelic Pig Latin. Dawn's greasy fingers smear the horizon too late to unsee the tapestry's new face. Your reflection winks back, surrounded by shadow auditors, itemizing every dropped stitch. The final knot tightens, whisper quiet, like guillotine blades post-neck. When you blink, the loom sits empty, hungry for the next volunteer. Somewhere below, a door creaks open. Somewhere beyond, a needle pricks eternity's fingertip. The final knot embeds itself, crushing as a bishop's signet ring. Threads frost into barbed wire. Your breath crystallizes like Vesuvian ash. Historians still argue, did the Bayeux Tapestry's lost panels depict ghosts or bounced checks? Your pulse thuds, each beat slower than Phoenician purple dye extraction. A moth grazes your cheek, wings stamped with Waterloo surrender terms. Quirky tidbit, Edwardian psychics claimed moths transmitted telegrams. If you licked their antennae, hard pass. The tapestry ripples, revealing Assyrian slaves spinning their own hair into armor. Awkward performance reviews ahead. Stairs creak beneath spectral footsteps, each groan mimicking the first Big Ben toll. Your blistered thumb skims a frozen thread. It hums of Tyrian snails and royal tantrums. Purple wasn't a color. It was a power move in liquid form. Shadows congeal, giving off Romanov basement, post-Yekaterinburg energy. You lurch toward the exit, ankles tangled in cobweb Versailles wig curls. The door warps, Mary Queen of Scots. Final escape, attempt vibes. Moonlight leaks through rafters. Same greasy gray as Tesla's Colorado Springs lab curtains. The latch sears your palm, frostbitten iron stinking of Hindenburg's last smoked sausage. Behind you, threads snap like 5-year plans under Stalin. The loom disintegrates blitzkrieg fast. The tapestry floats untouched, smug as Marie Antoinette's uneaten cake replica. Fun fact, she never said the line, yet her cross-stitch twin munches brioche anyway. Quirky tidbit, Victorian seances produced quilted Shakespeare sonnets. Macbeth in patchwork denim, a yarn coil whips your shin karma for skipping the 1523 Weavers Guild barbecue. You stomp floorboards splinter into Luther's excommunication scroll confetti. Historians still debate if Salem's bewitched yarn caused hysteria or just moldy flax. Your eardrums implode, pressure dropping like Edison's failed submarine patents. Ceiling drips congeal, half candle wax, half Antietam's leftover gunpowder sweat. One step into the hall, the door slams. Through the keyhole, threads resurrect. Warp becomes WWI bandages, becomes COVID mask elastic. The final sound, a snicker stolen from Edison's first phonograph, or your sleep-deprived hiccup. The alley lies unchanged, cobbles slick with modern rain. but your palms burn with phantom blisters, and high above the shuttle stirs. Somewhere a stair groans, somewhere a needle pricks living flesh, somewhere you're already fading as the loom croons to its next volunteer. The final knot dissolves, your breath unspooling into ordinary air. Frosted threads droop, soft as moth wings after midnight rain. Historians' quarrels fade, distant echoes beneath floorboards stuffed with forgotten ledgers. Your pulse steadies, rhythms sinking with alley cats lounging on dumpsters. A moth brushes your wrist, powdered wings now mere linen dust. That Edwardian antennae rule, pure nonsense, like mistaking candle smoke for calligraphy. The tapestry sags, its Assyrian armor fraying into cobwebs over pantry shelves. Shadows retreat, shrinking from dawn's first indifferent smear of light. Footsteps dissipate ghosts of Big Ben's chimes dissolving into radiator hisses. Your thumb traces a thread's ghost, cool as subway tiles in July. Royal purples bleach to lavender, the color of forgotten birthday sachets. Iron latches thaw, scent shifting from Hindenburg's ash to Tuesday's laundromat detergent. You step free, Versailles wigs unraveling into alley puddles. The door clicks shut, a sound as mundane as closing a fridge. Moonlight waxes tender gray, fading to the cream of peeled library stickers. Rafters creak, no more menacing than a neighbor's fussy plumbing. Behind the sealed door, threads murmur like radios tuned between stations. Warp becomes grandmother's knitting, becomes a child's friendship bracelet. The loom's snicker softens a hiccup swallowed by yawns. Cobblestones gleam, washed clean of everything but tonight's drizzle. Your palms cool, blisters dissolving into lifelines etched by subway poles and coffee cups. Above, the shuttle rests, or pretends to. The alley holds its breath, then exhales garbage trucks and pre-dawn bakers. Somewhere a stair sighs, somewhere needles rust in mason jars. Somewhere the loft hums a frayed melody only sleep recognizes. You walk home, each step lighter than the last. Dawn's fingertips brush power lines, and the world, ordinary, relentless, merciful, welcomes you back. Your eyelids dip, carrying the loom's lullaby into folds of dreamless dark. Breath steadies, shoulders soften as the last thread snaps, silent as a page turning in an empty room.